Now, very happy to welcome our next guest. He's always really popular. Anytime he's in the show, lots of texts come in, lots of feedback come in. So it's great to have Richard Dunne with us. Not that you need reminding, 431 Premier League appearances with Everton and City and Villa, and played for QPR as well. Man City Player of the Year just the 4 times in a row. PFA Team of the Year in 2010. We often forget that. And then, of course, 80 Ireland caps as well. Was at the O2 World Cup, was at the Euros in 2012. I think that's the gist of it, Richard. That's as much as you're getting anyway. How's things?
Yeah, great, thanks. Just trying to get through this lockdown, I suppose, like everyone else. So it's nice to have a bit of work and speak to people.
I can imagine. I'm looking there over your shoulder. That doesn't look like sunny Monaco. Where in the world are you?
No, this is Manchester. This is so at the start of the lockdown, we decided to come back here, try and see it out, hoping that we'd have 2 weeks, 3 weeks over here before heading back. But obviously, it's gone on and on and on. So it's it's been a few changes. So we're just back in Manchester for the time being, just to try and see what happens.
Okay, that 2 weeks has become a fair bit longer.
Yeah, that's it. It's like I don't know, what is it, 6 months now? So it's difficult. It's the whole plan was that we'd come back over, we'd have a couple of weeks, but then as it's gone on, we've tried to look for different schooling and stuff for the kids, and we thought there's now in school over here, and it's been disruptive, I suppose, for everybody, so we just have to try and make the best of it.
Yeah, I can imagine. How are they finding things?
All right. It's hard because we've been in France for so long. My son is a little bit younger, so he's feeling more like he belongs in the French system, where my daughter is more into, I suppose, animals and wildlife and being out in parks and stuff like that, which is obviously more Manchester side of it. So, so at the moment she's here, and at the moment my son's over there with my wife. So it's a bit different. We're just trying to work it out, just try and get him a skill over here that he can settle back into, and hopefully after the October break, then they'll be back.
Right, okay. Just that is a big strain if you've got half over there and half here and no end in sight, and when that vaccine arrives, I don't even know.
No, it's but that's it. It's one of those things. You just have to try and make the best of it. The kids both like different things, so we're just trying to make and keep them as happy as we can for the time being, and then eventually it'll all work itself out and we're back together, and hopefully the world opens back up and everyone can get out.
I hear you. Do you base in Manchester? Like, is there an element of Manchester being a second home to you?
Yeah, I've had a house here in Manchester since I suppose 2000 when I signed for City, and then the house that we're in at the moment we've had for 15 or 16 years, and it's sort of any time there's been school holidays or breaks, we've always come back here. The kids see this more as home than anywhere. So it's it's not like it's been difficult trying to move and find a house and look for all that sort of stuff. So we've had a place, and so it's just back to a different routine than the one in Monaco.
Yeah. I mean, I guess under COVID restrictions, you're not exactly high-fiving people, but if you are out and about on the streets, do you get a nice reaction still from City fans?
Yeah, I've been working in at City for the last couple of weeks, just doing a few different things. They have TV thing, and then also helping coaching some younger kids there and stuff like that. So it's been nice to be able to have the time actually to be over here and to go back in and see some old faces that I've not seen for a while. And it's it's good. It's just, I think, just keeping busy is important. So it's I've enjoyed it, to be honest. I've enjoyed being back here. I've enjoyed being around the football club, and it's been good.
Because I wasn't joking. I suspect you hate the question, "What are you up to now?" That former footballers get. What are you up to now? And a bit of this, bit of that. I don't know. That's a tough question sometimes.
It is a tough question because you just carrying on with your life, just doing the normal things, and different things come up, and there's no like set plan that I'm going to do this forever or that forever. And it's at the moment of like I say, I've been working with Man City. They have like a select group of kids who are sort of pre-academy ages, so just there they've been selected but not quite in the academy yet. So I was trying to get them into the academy, and so I've been working with them a little bit. But again, it's difficult because they're not allowed training, they're not allowed into the academy system, and they're not allowed into the centre. So it's just a case of meeting up on a Sunday, having a match against the academy, and then and then meeting up the following week, but all different age groups. So, but it's just been good just to see them and just to see the standard and the levels that are expected over here. And then apart from that, so what have I been up to? It's just that really. It's just you just try and go week to week and see what's happening. And the city thing's great, but it's again you get a phone call on Thursday and say, oh, we have a match Sunday or maybe not this week, you know. So it's just biding your time and just trying to wait till something more regular comes up.
I asked this not having a master plan myself, but do you have a great plan for the next 5-10 years? Do you know what you want to be doing?
I'd like to get into coaching. I've done me badges up to the A license at the moment, and hopefully we'll do more as it goes forward. But the plan, I've been over in Monaco and France and doing a lot of coaching over there for the last 4 or 5 years, doing younger age groups, development kids, football camps, different things like that. And it's something that when I retired, I wasn't really working along them lines. It wasn't something that I wanted particularly to get into, but I suppose like that, once you've been in a certain environment for a long time, you slowly get dragged back into it, and that's what's happened with me. And I've really, really enjoyed doing it. So it's there's obviously a limit as to how far a private academy can go in Monaco or in France. So for me, I know the Premier League. The people in England would know me more than over there. So I think for me to progress, the next stage is to come back to England and try and work with academies, with Man City and stuff like that, and then hopefully progress from there.
Okay, potentially into adult senior teams.
Yeah, that's the aim. I mean, at the moment, while I've been in France, I've been working with kids, I suppose, up to the age of under 13. And now I'll be with City working with the under 15s and 16s, which again is another stepping stone. And then hopefully in the future I'll move forward and get into the senior level stuff and wherever it may be. I'm quite open about where it is. I don't have a particular aim that has to be the Premier League or has to be England or has to be this and stuff. I've done my time in France enough that I can speak the language, so going back over there maybe to work is something that'd be interesting, or anywhere really. I think as a footballer, because you move around so much, you start to get into the thing that home is just where your family is. It's not really a place, you know. You just move around and wherever it takes you. So yeah, we'll just see. There's plenty of places to go and things to see. So yeah, I look forward to the future.
How does the standard of those 15, 16-year-olds compare to the standard when you arrived over from home farm at Everton?
It's a huge difference. A really big difference. It's I don't know whether Man City is unique in the way that they're one of the probably renowned as being one of the better academies in the world. You can see from the under 10s all the way up. It's the exact same style of football. It's the exact same sort of even the personnel and the players, and they're not even called positions or whatever. They're number 2, number 5, number 3, number 6, all this sort of stuff. And when they go looking for players, it's about, well, we need a number 2. And there is a specific sort of description of that player and what he looks like and how he plays and stuff like that. And they will have the same player probably all the way through the age groups. So if an under 14 player is doing well, he can easily slip into the under 15s, and he knows the system, he knows the style, and it's almost a specific type of player. Whereas previously it was like when I went over, if you had a right back who was good in the air and could make a good tackle, well then that's your type of right back. Whereas now it's like, well, our right backs need to be quick, they need to get forward, they need to be able to be comfortable on the ball. It's different, you know. You're looking at players and you think, well, maybe that right back from 15 years ago, maybe he's just a centre half now, and that's what he does. So it's the standard and the style of football and the quality of the players are really, really high.
So explain to me then the defending that I'm seeing at senior level in the Premier League over the last couple of weeks. What is going on?
Well, this is it. This is the new style of football, and it's sort of, you're looking at centre halves and defenders in particular, and the first thing they're looking at is, can they pass the ball? Are they comfortable in possession, and can they create chances for our midfield or forwards or whatever? And that first element of, you need certain people in your team who defend your goal. You need certain people who will put their body on the line and stop balls going in the back of the net. And it seems to sort of have gone too far the other way in terms of, it's only about playing football. It's only about passing it from the back. And you look at Liverpool this weekend and their sort of thing, which you could see for the whole season so far. You're watching their games, you're thinking they're going to get caught out eventually because they're too high, always too high. And there's certain times in a game when you can be high, maybe from a goal kick or something like that against you, you can squeeze high. But as soon as the ball comes into the middle of the middle zone in the pitch, you need to drop off a few yards. You need to give each other cover. And they're sticking to it on the risk and reward sort of levels, thinking they won't get caught out that often. But it doesn't take too many games when you concede 7 to lose an awful lot of confidence and start to doubt what you're doing. So it's there has to be a fine line between trying to be smart, trying to be pass the ball and be clever and actually just defending and being a defender. And I seen Man City sign Diaz at the weekend, and one of the best things that he did in the game was the ball got knocked down the wing and it bounced, and he could have controlled it and turned and passed it, but he just headed it out and got everyone back into position. And then 10 minutes later, we've seen the same thing down the left-hand side, and Mendy tried to control it, miscontrolled it, and Leeds get in and get an opportunity. So it's sometimes going back to basics isn't a bad thing. There's certainly room for the playing and the possession and stuff like that, but there's also times that you have to be a defender. It's not even being old school, it's just being a defender.
Well, that's the point, because you can feel like you sound like a dinosaur when you're making these points.
Yeah, that's it. And you think, oh, well, of course he's going to say that because that's all he could do or whatever. But the truth is, there's defending. If I'm in the team to score goals, I go in, I'll try and score goals. I don't mess around at the back trying to take chances and doing different things. And it's the same for defenders. They're in there to help the team not concede goals first and foremost, in my opinion. But it's just taking any doubt out of things. If you're in trouble, clear the ball. If you can play, of course. But you need to err on the side of caution, I think, as a defender.
Just thinking there, so you went over at 15. So I make it you're going 25, 26 years now out of Dublin. What's your relationship with, home or Dublin, or when you arrive back in the airport? Do you feel like a stranger in your own land a little bit, or do you still feel very settled when you get back?
I still feel good when I go home. I enjoy going back, and obviously my mum and dad and my sisters are over there, so I love going. And I probably feel like a stranger this time because it's been nearly a year since I've been over because of what's gone on. I've not just not had the time, and then obviously since March there's not been the possibilities really to get back, so it's hard. But no, I love going back over, and I think being forced to stay away almost makes you miss it even more. You want to get back, and even spoke to my mum and dad about I'll come over and sit in the back garden for the day and just see us for the afternoon. But because of, I suppose, the amount of fear that's being put into people over what's going on, that they're in their 80s, they're up at that age where they're nervous and stuff like that, and they're like, no, it's grand, we'll talk to you on the phone and that's all right and stuff like that. It's just keep safe and all that. So it's hard, but it's something hopefully before the year is out, there might be an opportunity where they feel comfortable having me over and stuff like that, and I can get back. And yeah, I'll look forward to being able to go over, and certainly come over and watch an Ireland match at some stage. Would be great. Hopefully not too far away.
Yeah. So, and we'll get on to the Ireland match. Actually, I guess much of this evening is about kind of building up to Thursday. We had David Myler on last week, and he was very interesting. He said he's very friendly with Conor Hourihane, and Hourihane gave him a shout after the Bulgaria-Finland games just to see what he thought. What did you see from me, kind of a thing? And Myler was saying in his own playing days, he would ring Roy Keane after a game. What did you think? What could I do?
Yeah.
Did you have anybody that you would give a call to? How am I looking? Did you have that type of almost mentor in your career, or was it whatever the says?
Yeah, it's just sort of whatever my dad says. he tells me I'm brutal, then I know I was. No, I think when I was at Everton, obviously, and I was starting out, Dave Watson was a big part of what I was doing. He would take me for individual sessions on a regular basis, and sort of whatever happened on Saturday, we would try and work on it during the week, and work things out between us. And him having the experience of playing for such a long time is someone that you can bounce things off at the time. But then as you go on and stuff like that, for me, I trusted my own instincts. I know when I was bad, and I know when I've done all right and stuff like that. And sometimes when you're bad, you know exactly why or what it was and stuff like that, and you don't need reminding of how it was. It's one of those, you just, that's a weakness. That wasn't great. Well, I'll try and get better at that this week or whatever it is. But it's hard. You can try and look at things and think, well, I kept getting done down the line all the time. This guy kept moving out and pulling me out of position, and then you think, well, I'll work on that. But then the next centre forward you play against is a guy who just stands central, and it's not the same. The games are never the same. So you just to be aware of everything, I suppose.
It's funny, we Teddy Sheringham on the show on Friday then. I feel like I'm dropping names here, but these are just... we're not friends. But he was talking, so he had to overcome from the age of 14, 15, being told he wasn't fast enough, and I suppose develop an intelligence and an awareness. And he would talk about, he'd come up against certain defenders and he knew he could see the game that bit better than them. So he knew he could drag them into spaces they didn't want to go to and set traps for them. And I'm curious as to what kind of challenge was that versus a Michael Owen when he's got blistering pace for you as a defender, the Sheringham intelligent types or the Michael Owen fast types? Was one worse than the other? Did you find you had more joy against one over the other?
They both bring their own sort of aspect to a game, where Teddy Sheringham will try and drag you into midfield, knowing quite well it's not him who the ball's intended for. It's people running in behind, So you start to think, well, I'll drop off and I'll cover that space in behind, and then he gets the ball and turns and he's running at you. So it's different games, different aspects, and there's times when you look and you think, well, the centre forward's not lightning quick, so you can play a higher line and you can squeeze things in and stuff like that. And then you look at Michael Owen and you say, well, he is quick, so we can't play on the halfway line. We need to drop off 10, 15 yards. And Michael Owen, probably when he was younger and he wasn't the one who could turn and create chances, he was the one that would run in behind. And I think as he got older and probably wasn't as quick after all his injuries, he started to drop into that hole. But someone like Thierry Henry, who had both of them, who could drop in, twist and turn and run at you or run in behind, people like that are a nightmare, But I think generally, in terms of cleverness, you're looking at people in the penalty area who can get away from you, who can drag you to the front post, and then as soon as you look at the ball, they're at the back post. And people like Robbie Fowler and Van Nistelrooy and players like that could sort of ghost away from you, and they were ones to really watch.
Yeah, and it's probably an underrated skill, that movement in the box, because it's difficult. How do you do that? How do they do that as opposed to other players?
I remember it was one of the first games that I ever played. We played Liverpool at Goodison Park, and I remember marking Robbie Fowler, and as the ball went down the wing, I had him, and he was literally stood in front of me and looking out to the wing, the two of us. And as the winger put his foot down to go, I sort of adjusted my body to look and open my body. And as it opened up, Robbie Fowler was at the back post and the ball came over my head and he headed it and it hit the crossbar. And that was like 5 or 6 minutes into your first Merseyside derby. And I thought, wow, I've got loads to learn, because I thought, if you cross it here, it's easy because I'm miles bigger than him, stronger than him, it'll be easy. But by the time the ball had come over in a split second, he'd already got 2 or 3 yards on me and nearly scored. Yeah,
wow. That is a oh my God moment, as you're probably jogging back up to the halfway line. You're thinking, what am I in for here? This is different levels.
So that's it, because you've progressed all the way through from 15, 16 in the academy, and you get into the first team because you're doing well and you're better than the players that you're playing against, and the centre forwards, you're generally keeping them quiet and keeping them out of the games, and then you come up against Robbie Fowler, who was at the time probably one of the best strikers in the world, and then you notice the difference and you notice the step up in levels of what you've done, and there's no more you can just rely on being stronger than people or bigger than people. You have to learn the game quickly, and you have to use your brain, I think, and that's why I suppose centre halves, the older they get, the better they become, because they understand the game. They start to understand the movements of strikers and stuff. And I mean, every time we went away with Ireland, Mark and Robbie Keane would be a lesson to you, because he's someone who would try and pull you short to get in behind and different things like that. And his movement was as good as anyone. So it is, the more you train with the first team and with senior players and top class footballers, obviously you need to be open to learn and to improve. And I think that's why for centre halves, it takes a little bit longer for them to mature.
Yeah, I guess it's such a different challenge every week. Like, if Teddy Sheringham drops in, you can follow him in the knowledge, unlike Robbie Keane, he can't just spin you and suddenly try and run in behind. But it varies all the time. Like, how do you handle an Henry? What do you do there?
Just pray. He was. I remember we played at Main Road against them, and the whole thing was just keep them outside. And there was literally a foot between me, him, and the end line of the pitch. And it was like, well, we've got him in a decent position, just keep him here. But he just kicked it, ran off the pitch, ran around me, and just ran straight through. And it's like, well, there's certain players of this, like, I mean, there's certain players that are just too quick that you can't stop. You can show them one way, but they're too quick. They can just, if you show them inside or give them a yard, well, then that's all they need, because their first movement is like 4 steps of yours or something like that. So it is hard, but that's when I think as a centre half, rather than having a bravado and an ego and say, "Oh, I'll stop him, I'll do everything, don't worry about it, use lads, relax." You work with your defensive midfielder, you work with your full backs, you work with your centre half partner, and you say, right, if I'm going in, I'm going to commit myself, and I know you'll be behind me to cover me, because it's one of those, you try and make the centre forward take a bigger touch than he necessarily wants to take, knowing quite well that your 2 covering defenders should be able to help you out. So yeah, it's all about, it's great trying to be there and do all the work on your own, but a lot of it is communication and organisation before the situations arise.
Yeah, Thierry Henry is not a one-man job, I would imagine. You know, it's funny. So I don't mean this in a disrespectful way when it comes to Alan Shearer, but like, all-time top Premier League goal scorer, and you might look at an Henry and say Henry's a much scarier prospect than Shearer, and yet he is clearly a phenomenal Shearer. 260 goals. You know, in that latter part of his career, after he had the difficult injuries and maybe he didn't have as much pace, how was he still able to score so many goals at such a high level?
I think intelligence, really. I just think the way that he played the game, he was very rarely doing any work outside the box. He would be in the penalty area the whole time. He was good in the air. He had a great strike on him. And yeah, I look back and I think, because I used to enjoy playing against him, and I mean, he scored loads of goals against me, but I enjoyed playing against him because he was an honest centre forward, someone who would battle you, who would kick you, but also take the kicks and play the game fairly. And he was brilliant, but I don't know if he was much quicker than anyone. I don't know if he was much stronger than anyone. I don't know if he was amazingly more clever than anyone. His movement, I don't know. But he was just always someone who had a knack for being in the right place at the right time. And he could score spectacular goals or tap-ins or whatever. And I suppose you look back and you think, well, he wasn't playing for Man United. He wasn't playing for Arsenal. He wasn't winning leagues or anything like that. But the team that he was in, he was scoring goals constantly. And I think even more so the fact that he didn't play for those big teams, the fact that he was at Newcastle and I know he won the league at Blackburn, it even highlights how amazing it is that the amount of goals that he got.
It's outrageous, like 260. He's so fast. So Rooney is second in 08, and then you have Andy Coll, then you have Aguero. The most nuts one on the all-time list is that Lampard is ahead of Henry. I mean, that's just insanity.
It's strange about Lampard.
Yeah, he was a phenomenon. I guess he wasn't necessarily your worry. The midfielders you could blame when it came to him. So if you played under a lot of interesting managers, be it Keegan 01 to 05, Pearce 05 to 07, Sven for a year, Mark Hughes for a year, Martin O'Neill, Gerard Houllier. Under all of them, who did you enjoy your football the most under?
Enjoy. I probably enjoyed it under Sven. He was really good when he came in. He was just simple as that. A lot of managers come in and they say, "Look, this is the way it's going to be. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. You must do this." He just come in and he said, "Look, we're going to try and improve. We're going to try and make us better players. But all I want from everyone is just respect. Respect each other. Respect all the staff. Respect everyone who works there, and we'll get through it." And it was just a breath of fresh air, I suppose. He just wanted to relax. He wanted people to enjoy the work that they were doing, and we done reasonably well with him that season. We were good. The club was in a bit of a state, I suppose, with the owner that we had, but he was he involved the players. He told us what he wanted. He told us he used to speak to us about players that he wanted to sign, about where he thought the team could improve and stuff like that. And he made it a really good, I suppose, dressing room and place to be. People enjoyed coming in, and it was unfortunate how it finished up for him, but it was a good experience to work with him.
It's funny, on the outside, we're all very obsessed with tactics, and maybe that's the Klopp Guardiola thing. But so often when you talk to former players about when they were at their best or when they enjoyed it most or when the team was going well, it just comes down to man management or an atmosphere created by the manager, as opposed to, oh, well, he had the secret, on the tactics board and that's what unlocked everything for us. It does tend to be more about, well, it was just a nice place to be. Yeah,
and he had that about him, that he had the personality about him, that he wanted players to be happy, to be going into the game on a Saturday or a midweek or whatever, and feeling confident and feeling comfortable in what you're doing. And you look at the success that Martin O'Neill had at Aston Villa. There was, everyone has spoke about it. There's no great master plan or whatever, but players would walk out on the pitch feeling 10 foot tall. And I'm sure it was the same when he was at Celtic. And you get this sort of just this confidence that builds and builds and builds, and you feel like you're invincible, and that's not down to tactical work or anything like that. That's just down to good man management and keeping players happy. And there's obviously, the game has changed slightly in recent years with the different tactics that I suppose Pep has brought over and Klopp has introduced and stuff like that. And it does get more like that. But at the end of the day, if you've got players, the only way you can make a tactic is by the players buying into it. And if they don't like it or they don't believe in it, your tactics will go out the window. So you have to have that personality, I suppose, that the players feel like they want to work for you and they want to implement what you're trying to do.
Is the day gone, though, where a manager can just come in, make everyone feel good and say, go out and enjoy it?
Probably, yeah. Probably there's so much at stake, and players, I think players need guidance as well. You want them to go out and enjoy it, but they want to walk out onto the pitch fully confident and in what they're doing. You can't just say to a footballer, go out and enjoy yourself. He needs to have responsibilities, and I think players like routines and responsibilities, and they can take control of what they're supposed to do on the pitch. If you go out and say, well, just go and press, it's like, well, do I press everybody or do I just press my man or whatever? So I think if you can simplify it for players, that makes them happy. That makes everything, once it's clear in their heads, they'll all have the self-belief that if you give them one job, they'll be able to do it, So if you can clarify that and make it simpler for them, it will certainly help.
You never quite made up with Gerard Houllier, I presume?
No. No, I think I've seen him maybe after one of the Ireland games or something like that. But it was, it was just a difficult period, I think, at the club. And he had different ideas, and probably it was wrong on my behalf, because you have preconceived ideas of people who come in and what they are or what they may be, and you listen to other people and stuff like that. And so you sort of close off possibly, and that could have been a factor. But he's doing great, and for himself, I think he's the head of the Red Bull Academy or something like that, the Red Bull whole thing. So, but I've not really seen him since he left Phillips.
And is it true that, his little mini dance the night of the Henry handball, that was got the relationship off to a bad footing? Was that kind of big part of the reason for the chemistry?
It was just part of another reason to not like him, I suppose. For me, it was something that he did. It was something that he brought up in discussions when we were at Phillips together, as a reason for me not liking him and stuff like that. And so it was childish stuff, really. I've been around a lot of French people for the last 5 years, so I know their personalities and how they work and different things like that. So it was one of them things that I've probably seen a few times from other people over there now, and it's I don't know. It tries to, whether it tries to wind you up or whatever. It's not something that Irish people would do. It's not how we behave. We don't do things like that. You've got a problem or you've got an issue, you say it to someone and you sort it out like that. You don't try and make snidey comments about it and stuff. So it's it's just him.
And was he maybe misreading the room, as in, if he made a snidey comment about the Henry handball, or if that came up, for instance, maybe he was assuming that this was not as big a deal to you as it clearly was. Such a serious thing for you. Might be easy for him to make a joke out of it. He might have just been misreading that, I wonder. Or would he have known it was bothering you?
It's one of those things. I mean, it bothered me at the time when he handled the ball, but 4 or 5 years down the line, in a conversation, if someone said it to me, when people say it to me all the time, How did you feel? How did you feel? And it's like, well, I felt crap 5 years ago, or I don't know, it's probably 20 years ago, or whatever long it is. But it's not something that's still on my mind, and it's but he wanted to know whether I didn't like him because of Thierry Henry's handball, and it's like, it's got absolutely nothing to do with him. You know what I mean? It's a strange thing for someone to say. It's like if a general Frenchman come up to me and says, "Do you not like me because of Thierry Henry's handball?" I'd be like, well, "Who said I don't like it?" It's just, it's a strange thing.
Is it hard to play good football when the chemistry is off with a manager? Are we able to do decent stuff under Houllier?
We struggled, to be fair, that season. The whole team struggled. We weren't. I think Martin left at the start of the season. Then Kevin MacDonald came in, and I think he probably felt himself that he was under a little bit of pressure. Everyone, all the players liked him and had worked with him on a day-to-day in terms of whether it be with the reserve team or when you're coming back from rehab, you go and have a couple of sessions with Kev and stuff like that. And it was brilliant. His training was really intense and really good. But I don't know whether the size of the club, the size of the job was a little bit stressful for him or whatever. And then, so we sort of never got going. And then, the manager came in and he had different sort of ideas. He had a coaching staff, which was, I don't know, Gary McAllister was there and he obviously understood the Premier League, but whether the fitness coach understood the Premier League and the demands of the Premier League, I don't know. And things just didn't seem to go well, and I think we were floating around the relegation zone for a bit that season after finishing 6th beforehand. But then whatever happened for the end of the season, we sort of got our act together and won a few games, and we ended up finishing 9th, which looked not too bad on paper. But it was a difficult season, and it was sort of the start of the club's demise, I suppose. Once Martin left, and there was that questions about why didn't they give him money to buy a centre forward, and then a couple of months later they gave him 20 odd million to sign Darren Bent, and his goals propelled us back up the table. So whether we could have, if Martin had got it, whether we could have progressed again, it would have been interesting to see. But I think it was difficult from the club after that to get everything moving in the right direction again.
Yeah. You would have had a bit of reputation, few disciplinary issues in your younger years, but we're talking, all those Premier League games, PFA Team of the Year in 2010, and it's just, the reason I bring it up is it's interesting you talk there about the fitness team maybe not understanding the demands of the Premier League and how you enjoyed intense training. So there was clearly a real work ethic there as well. Did you become like militant, professional, doing everything perfect, obsessive in your later years, or did you always have a bit of a blowout and a bit of a balance? What was your approach when you got into a groove as a senior pro? You have to be honest here.
Look, yeah, I'd love to say it was the ultimate professional, but no, everything that I did in when I played and trained and everything like that, every day was 100%. I'd give everything, and that was the way I kept fit, was that I wanted to work hard in training and I wanted to play hard in games and stuff like that. And my personality and the way I am, I needed to go and have a blowout now and again. I need to relax, and I'm not someone who was, I suppose, obsessed with football 24 hours a day. I needed to have my own life and to step away, because I love football, I love playing, I love doing everything like that, but it was stressful, and for me I needed to get away from it from time to time. So I did have blowouts and I did relax and stuff like that, but I prided myself that always when I was there, and I would always give 100%. Anytime I was injured, I was always back well before I was supposed to be and stuff like that. And I hated missing training. Even when I was at QPR at 35 or whatever like that, they would say, I'll have a day off. But to me, I didn't want to have a day off, because to them a day off is going into the gym and doing weights, and I had no interest in that. I wanted to go out on the pitch and run around and do that sort of thing. So that was the way that I sort of always was. And I suppose the older you get, they do say take an extra day. But even down to there became a stage in your career where it's like, well, you're a senior team player now, you're first team and stuff like that. Don't play in the Carling Cup or the Carabao Cup or whatever that. But I wanted to. The more games I played, the quicker I could get into a rhythm of playing well and stuff like that. So I would always ask them if I could play, I wanted to play every match basically. So it was. I think I was a good pro probably, but I don't know if I was the same as, like, you see Harry Kane or Ronaldo or people like that who have fitness sessions in the night time, cold baths and all that sort of stuff. There was a limit to how much I could do.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm not surprised to hear you say it was at times a little bit stressful, just that room of football 24/7. I suspect you're walking down the street, people talk to you about football, you're thinking about football, your job is football, just to throw the shackles off a little bit at times. Yeah,
I think I don't know where the players these days get their releases from and their freedom, because as every year goes by, the scrutiny gets more and more, and there's less leeway for players to relax and do that. And then
think of a camera phone at your worst 3 moments. No one wants that. You know what I mean? And that'll be around forever.
Yeah, and that goes for all walks of life. It's not something that you want to be reminded of, or if you try and relax and do something, and it's like, well, that's not what a professional footballer does. So I'm going to take a photograph of it. But everyone relaxes. Everyone has to have a bit of downtime and be free to live their own life and stuff like that. And there's no doubt if you're a footballer, you don't go into the middle of London and go and get drunk on a Friday night or wherever it is. But you have to be professional. You have to live your life as a professional footballer, and that means also then there is days when you can get a rest and you can have a break and stuff like that. So there's all these footballers, I suppose, feeling the stress, but they've also got families and kids and wives and parents who just want to see them relax and enjoy themselves with them. So there has to be for me, there had to be a bit of downtime amongst that.
Yeah, I'm sure. To finish up on Ireland chat then, did you get a chance to see any of Stephen Kenny's first 2 games?
Yeah, I watched the 2 matches. You could obviously see the change in the system and the change in strategy of how he wants to go about it. Whether it's really difficult for it to work straight off on the first couple of games. But yeah, you could see probably what it was one of those games where you're crying out for a Wes Houllier from years ago to come back in and play in that sort of position and be that creative one, because we're doing a lot of nice passing, a lot of possession and stuff like that, but it's just trying to find that one player now who can give us the creativity to threaten teams, to cause trouble, and to put a finish to the good work, which is starting to evolve.
I did wonder if David McGoldrick in particular, I mean, he's not Wes, but equally he's not against dropping deep and taking possession and trying to feed the ball to others. He might be a very important missing link in that chain from the last couple of games, and obviously he's fit and scored a goal at the weekend, so maybe that makes a difference. I presume Wes watches these games now and says, oh my God, 10 years too late.
Yeah, I'm sure he does, and there's probably a couple of other players along the way the same, but it's a unique role, and it's something that's really it's drifting almost out of football, is that number 10. If you look around, there's not too many number 10s anymore. The player who is sort of pigeonholed and told, right, that's your job. Everyone has to work, everyone has to press. So it's trying to find almost a creative midfielder who can also track back and tackle and work in a team unit. And it's very difficult to find. It's something which is, it's probably gold dust for all the teams, and where it is, I don't know. But there was certainly positive signs, I think, in the first couple of games in terms of the possession and being able to keep the ball. And I don't know how great the opposition was in the two games, and whether Slovakia is going to be a step up from that, because they like to keep the ball as well. So it will be a bit more of a test. And but fingers crossed, fingers crossed we can obviously win and get through to the next round of it. And yeah, it'd be great. It would be a really positive thing for Stephen Kenny and for Ireland if we can qualify. You know, because there's obviously doubts about is he right? Is his tactics going to work? Do the players have the belief in him and all that sort of stuff? And it will take results to confirm that for the players and for the media and fans and stuff like that. So if we can win and we can get to the Euros, people will start to look at it and go, right, well, brilliant, we've got someone, and we may not win every game, but we're moving in the right direction.
And what is your opinion on the quality of players that we have and the type of football Stephen is trying to play?
I think he's trying to play the type of football which everyone is trying to play. I just hope it doesn't take away one of our main strengths is our passion. And people seem like, I think he doesn't like the fact that people talk about the way that Ireland used to play and stuff like that, but that's part of what an Irish team is. And if you lose that and then try and go head to head with the top teams in the world, they're better at this new style of football than what we are, and they've got better players and stuff like that. So you can't, if you take away that passion, it'll be a walkover. But you put that passion back into the team, you put that sort of turn them, get down to the channels, work them hard, kick them, foul them, everything like that. That's what we're good at, and that's what we've always been good at. So now, instead of thinking, well, we have to move away from that, we just have to add to it. We have to add the football inside of it. We have to add that bit more belief, but always know that if things aren't going right and things aren't, we don't just resort to kicking it long or anything like that, but we're not afraid to get hands dirty, to get stuck in, to work hard and to press the opposition, because wherever you think, that's what the fans want to see. They want to see us playing good football, but they don't want to see us playing good football at the cost of losing that bit of fire and that bit of bite that we have.
Yeah, there is a DNA there that actually not every country has in the same way, so you might as well take advantage of it. I guess the worrying view of the first two games might be, one, for all of the possession, I can't remember Ireland creating a bucket load of chances. You know, it wasn't that kind of a game. And two, in an uncharacteristic way, the goals that Ireland gave up were very soft.
Yeah, it's as a defender, and the defenders like Shane Duffy, like Egan, like whoever else has been playing there, the transition from being a footballing centre back, someone who has to spread wide, control the ball, and all this sort of stuff, to then instantly switching and getting back into the middle and getting compact and being defensive. It's difficult to do it, because on one hand you're trying to keep the ball, so you're in offensive positions, you're in space and you're looking for it. But if that's a bad ball, if someone gives the ball away, the gaps between the centre backs is massive, and they have to react quickly to get back in. So it's hard, and it doesn't happen. It's almost, you have to change your mindset and what you're used to be doing. You're normally in the right position from the get-go, and that's it. And then also in terms of scoring goals and creating chances, there has to be, I suppose, a process for the manager and for Keith and Damien as well, when they're out training, and the facts that they want them to pass the ball, and they've started to get them to do that. We've seen the possession count going up, and then the more they can do that and the more training sessions they can get, they will start to introduce, I suppose, certain patterns that they want to follow, and they will be the creative actions that they'll do in the game. I think at the moment it's about keeping it, and hopefully the work this week and whatever in the next 3 games will be, right, well, when we get into this situation, these are the movements that we want to make to start creating chances, and yeah, hopefully we can see the benefit of that in the coming games.
I mean, geez, it's not easy. I'd say they've had about 6 training sessions, if even, and we're looking for such a big change. Yeah. That's a very interesting point you make about the likes of Duffy and Egan going from, split centre halves, full backs pushed on and kind of playing a certain type of football. That mindset shift to get back into tied together defensive, because I'd say, like, for certain games, say Moscow for instance, I'm sure people mention that to you all the time, there was a degree there where your mindset as a team was get back tight. This is like defensive, roll up the sleeves type performance. So they're now trying to juggle the two, lovely football here and there, and then, as you said, switch into going tied together again. So that hadn't occurred to me, but that's a really interesting point.
It is. It's difficult, I think, if you're used to being in the centre half and you're in the middle of the pitch and you're 5 yards or 10 yards away from your other centre half, when you drift out to the right hand side to get into a good position, you probably, somewhere in your mind, your comfort zone is, you probably think the guy's right next to you and you're in the right position, and you're trying to do, because the manager will be saying drop off, pull wide, whatever it is, to get yourself into space to get the ball. But if any one of those people in front of you gives the ball away, you're 15 yards out of position, and the other guy's 15 yards out of position. So to then react and try and get back in, and it's difficult, because you think, well, do we just go straight to the ball? But the other guy has come across enough and stuff like that. So it's probably more difficult against Finland than against Bulgaria and stuff like that, because you do have a lot of the ball. Maybe when you don't have a lot of the ball, you're in your defensive positions to start with, so you're already in the right place. And then, but it is just a small mindset change that they need to think about, and they need to make sure if the ball's going forward and it goes into a certain zone, that you do retreat back into your normal positions.
Yeah. Well, listen, thanks so much for the time. I mean, that was great. So much good stuff in that. Enjoy the game on Thursday. I guess, like the rest of us, you'll be watching it. And hopefully family all back together and COVID is behind us very soon. Richard Dunne, thanks so much. Real pleasure, Richard.
Cheers, Joe. Thank you.
Yeah, so that was Joe Malloy speaking to Richard Dunne a little bit earlier on. If you want to listen back to that, you can find it on as part of the OTV podcast network. It'll be available a little bit later on. This is our Ireland versus Slovakia special, with thanks to Paddy Power, fueling the mischief in the beautiful game. So later on, we will have Joe in studio again. He'll be chatting to Kevin Phillips with Kevin Kilbane and Niall Quinn. So that's a bit of a Sunderland loving. We'll also have loads of Ireland build-up as well. Coming up next is the Crappy Quiz, followed by Damien Delaney and Stephanie Roche, who'll join me on the Paddy Power half hour as we look at more of the tactical side of the Ireland-Slovakia game, where the game's going to be won and lost, and how Ireland are going to get on. But before that, Callum Robinson was in front of the press yesterday ahead of this game, and here's some of the things that he had to say.
And it was maybe a bit of a surprise to everybody that for pre-season playing internationals of importance. Just how far off it were you, do you think, in September of full fitness compared to where you are a month on?
Well, I can't speak obviously for everyone, but I would definitely say I was probably 75% out of 100. It's tough because you have a few pre-season games, but they're not the same. And as I said, it was a short pre-season anyway. I think it was 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, and we was having 2 massive games like that, and it's tough. And then obviously you've got the new information from the new manager to take on board as well, which is tough. Obviously no excuses, but you could see what he wanted from the way we played, but just that extra 15-20% is going to obviously take us a long way.
All the players we've spoken to over the last while talk about the amount of information. Has that kept going over the last few weeks? Has the manager been in touch when you've been back with your clubs?
Yeah, obviously he tries to get in touch, but it's tough for him because we're with our clubs and we're doing what we're doing week in, week out. So it's more when we get here where he can obviously get more information across as a collective instead of individuals, because it would be tough to be ringing every player throughout every week. Every week it'd be tough to obviously get the information. So it's obviously easier when you've got the group of lads in front of you to help us. It's easier to get the information across.
I'm sure you'd say you'd play anywhere, but if it is the 4-3-3 formation, again, across that front three, what do you think is your best position? What's your preferred spot?
Obviously, I've played in every one of them positions in my career so far. So I had obviously for Preston North End, I played a lot on the left, and then for Ireland, I've played a lot on the right, and then obviously this season, West Brom last season, I was on the left and right, and then this season I've been playing through the middle for the first 4 games of the season. So that's the obviously good thing about myself. I enjoy playing in any of them positions, and I enjoy just being in the final third and trying to be a threat from any right, left or up front. So it's been obviously it's good for me because it helps me get into the squads, and hopefully I can, as I say, push for that starting spot.
Just one last one. Cyrus Christie's been called back into the squad in place of Seamus Coleman. He was talking over the last few weeks about some of the issues he'd had with racism when he was in with Ireland. Some of the quotes he said were, "Cyrus, you're not Irish, you were born in England." And he didn't think that the likes of Richard Keogh, Harry Arter, Kieran Clark were getting those sort of comments. He said, "But me, David McGoldrick, Callum Robinson, the 3 black lads that's coming at us, we're the ones that are getting spoken about like that." Have you had any experiences like that, like Cyrus talks about, when you've been in with Ireland?
Not so much. I haven't had a lot. I think when I was at Preston, I had my Preston time, but when I first sort of joined the squad, I had a few tweets and stuff like that. But I haven't had nothing to face or heard anything from anyone, from the fans or crowd-wise. And with Twitter, as you know, you never get a face on the other side of it. So obviously we got them tweets deleted because you want that kicked out. We don't want any of that. And we're obviously playing for the country because we've got Irish in us. So that doesn't make sense at all. Or we wouldn't be playing for the country. And we still put in 100 and 110%. It doesn't matter. So yeah, obviously that's disappointing if Si's had that. I've had a little bit of it, but maybe not as much as him, or I'm not sure about Didsy. But in general, we're trying to kick that out. And as you can see with football in England, in the Prem and in the Championship and all the leagues, we're really trying to push this because it's obviously disappointing what's been going on around the world. And football is obviously one of the main sports, and we're trying to push that in general. So yeah, obviously it's not nice that Si's had to experience that, but with me, I've only had a few tweets, and as you said, you don't know who's on the end of them.
Do you think it's working? Do you think taking a knee for the 10 seconds at the start of a game is having an impact?
Well, of course, because it's every game. Everyone's watching the games, and as I said, it's viewed all around the world, and we're making a stand, and hopefully, even if it's 1%, 2% of even kids growing up, like asking the question, why are they kneeling on? Why they doing that? And then the parent can answer it, and just little things. There's so much to it, but I think obviously definitely them 1-2% is always going to help this situation.
Spoke yesterday about Ireland's approach, and he said they won't, that the team won't be cautious. In terms of, it's a one-off game, and it's a cup semi-final to make a final with a big prize at stake. So how do you think you'll approach the game in terms, because you mentioned as well that Slovakia are a possession-based team. So how important will it be to try and get on the front foot and dictate things on Thursday?
Well, of course, that's down to the manager, not Callum Robinson. But I think since obviously we've only had one trip with a new manager, but he's been really positive with us, and as you could see in the games, the way that we was pressing and the way we was trying to go at it, we wasn't sitting off at times in the game. You have to sit off. There's quality in international football, and you can get punished if you're all over the place. But you can see that we're being positive and we're trying to force the issue. And I'd assume we're going to obviously go there positive and try attack them and to stop them playing and disrupt them. But as I said, I'm not the manager, and we haven't really had that sit down yet or a meeting about what's going on, because it's obviously lads have been coming in. As I said, the likes of Connor come this morning and Doc's come this morning, so that we haven't had that group meeting yet. But obviously, it's down to the manager what he wants to do and how he wants to go there and to try get a win is what we're obviously going to try do. And I'd assume it's going to be to try force the issue.
Callum, does the fact that you playing regularly in the Premier League, you're scoring goals, particularly against Chelsea, do you think you've given the manager something to think about for this week?
Well, you hope so, as a professional footballer and as an attacker, scoring goals and assists, and obviously first of all playing, getting games and starting and getting minutes. Hopefully I've been doing well in club level, as I said, first of all to get selected, but then to obviously get to get in the starting lineup. I've been obviously working hard club level to try and get that starting. That start here, and obviously fingers crossed that can happen. And we just got to wait and see what the manager wants to go for on Thursday night. But I've done the best I can, and hopefully in the next few days I can keep training and working hard to try and push to get that start.
And just obviously, ordinarily, this game would be played in front of a really hostile crowd in Slovakia. No crowd there. From your experience in the Premier League, how much difference has that made playing behind closed doors? Yeah, there can be differences in different games. So, for instance, that Chelsea game, they come back into it and obviously got the 3 goals. But you could say if there was fans roaring us on and to keep them out, that could have happened, and we could have maybe got a win. Is obviously that's the main thing that I miss the most. I miss the fans at games, and especially games like Thursday night. It would have been going off. So yeah, it's obviously disappointed. Missed them loads, and probably took them for granted a little bit because now for the first time ever that we've had to play without fans, you really do miss them. So yeah, it's going to be obviously different on Thursday night without our fans there.
Yeah, so you spoke a lot earlier about fitness and your fitness being lacking earlier in the previous matches. Do you think as well as being fitter, you'll also be mentally sharper for these games, having played a few games over the last month? Yeah,
of course, the fitter you are, the sharper you are, and that's just common sense. That's just as in, if you're fitter, you don't have to worry about your legs like blowing up early or whatever. You're sharper in your mind, your touches, your awareness, everything. It takes long, and that's why normally you have a 6-7 week period to get to that point. And as I said, we only had 3 weeks, I think it was, or 2.5, 3 weeks to get to that point. And then you're playing against teams that their leagues have started as well. Also, their leagues were started before us, so they would have been up to a little bit more speed than us. So yeah, it's obviously difficult doing it, but we had to do it. It is what it is, and for the boys we done well. But as I said, the way the manager wants to play, you need that extra 15-20%. You need to be a bit more fitter than we were with the press, etc. But that's why I'm hoping, obviously, these next 3 fixtures, but obviously Thursday night, we'll be fitter and we'll be obviously more on the ball and sharper around the box and in our own box as well.
Hey, Callum. Yeah, just to really follow on from something Damien was asking about, from your own performance point of view, what's the most difficult aspect of playing in an empty stadium?
Yeah, the difficult is probably when you score against Chelsea and there's no one there to there's no one there to celebrate with, just the camera. So that's the difficult part of it. And as I said, for West Brom, we're obviously back in the Premiership, and the fans would be roaring us on and celebrating goals, etc., and helping us along the way, which isn't happening at the moment. Obviously, we're celebrating with just our teammates. But as I said, you take the fans for granted when you're scoring goals, or you're getting a draw against Chelsea at the Hawthorns. It would have been obviously nights to remember. But at the moment, there's nothing. Aston Villa last night beat Liverpool 7-2. Villa Park, as I was there before, that would have been going off for hours. But obviously, it's just sad that isn't happening at the moment through these circumstances. But we have to just obviously keep playing and keep working hard through these times.
Yeah, obviously the circumstances around the world are very difficult for everyone, and obviously the virus is still out there. Now you're leaving what is quite a controlled, like health-wise, Premier League environment, and I'm not at all questioning your commitment to Ireland. You're clearly committed to international football, but did it give you pause for thought at all? Are you anxious at all about leaving your club and then getting on a flight to England or flight to Ireland, and then you're going to play in Slovakia, then in Ireland, then in Finland, then back to England? Like, it's an awful lot of travel. Like, I think you'd probably be human if you wouldn't be human if you weren't a little bit anxious about that.
Yeah, I think everyone's obviously a little bit anxious about obviously catching it, which is understandable. But at the end of the day, this is our job, and then you're playing for your country. At the end of the day, there's no way I'm not catching a flight over to Ireland and catching a flight to Slovakia and back and to Finland, and no chance I'm missing that. Obviously, you are anxious because it is crazy what's going on in the world right now. But at the end of the day, it's our job, and we want to play for our country. It's simple as that.
And you're probably aware, I doubt even the manager has to say it, that you can cheer up a full country with your result on Thursday night.
Yeah, of course. Through these sad times at the moment, as I said, I would say in general, football in general has been obviously keeping people healthy, and you laugh and you think that no chance, but I know that football is definitely helping people's heads at the moment. Obviously, being at home a lot and watching the games, etc. Obviously gives them a motive to be happy. So obviously a lot's on Thursday night, and if we can get a win to put some smiles again on people's faces. And as you know, winter's coming as well, so that's just a little bit of a downer with the virus. So football is obviously a massive thing, and if we can get that win for the country on Thursday night, that would be massive.
Chris Waddle.
Oh, you're kidding me. September.
Kyle Lafferty.
Are you joking me?
Is that right?
I know, it's not right.
Anybody else? Leash, was it?
Like, that is one of the most stupid questions.
Darius Vassell? Seriously, you all need to just stay quiet. This is getting really annoying doing this quiz.
What is going on here?
Welcome along to the shoutiest segment on Irish radio. It is the scintillating, it is the stupefying, it is the splendido crappy quiz. It is a very special football-packed quiz for you today, with thanks to Paddy Power. And allow me to welcome today's teams. Our first team today sees a despicable rivalry put to one side for just one day. Tension has built up over the years after one of these team members once said to the other one, "Please use my full title," which is OTB's chief football commentator. Well, here is OTB's chief football commentator, Nathan Nate Dog Murphy and Stephen Shaker Maker Doyle.
Wow. Which one of us is the chief?
You very much are. Is this not a title you have taken upon yourself in recent years?
Yeah, if you just keep saying it long enough, people believe you. So, like you and witty sidekick.
Thank you. That's actually very nice thing to say about me. I am looking forward to the Thursday Night Football's introduction. It's like chief football commentator with senior football pundit John Giles. So this is the sort of dream team that we live for on a Thursday night. So Nathan and Steve-O, you are team one. Our second team today sees a link-up of two genuine sports boffins. If they clashed heads, all you would see is an explosion of information about the All-Ireland Hurling Championship in the 90s, a list of all the golf major winners in history, and Carlos Alberto's goal against Italy on loop. Give it up for John Bookie Basher Duggan and Will King of the Midlands O'Callaghan.
Be a lot of blood as well if we smashed heads in such a way.
Yeah, it'd be pretty disgusting. Our final team today consists of two proper, genuine, salt-of-the-earth Irish football men. They are such genuine Irish football men that they have matching tattoos of a list of all of Jack Byrne's appearances for the Ireland team. Some say they are such genuine Irish football men that they are the only people that John Giles actually truly likes. Give it up for Dan Giovagnoli is better than Trapattoni McDonald and Phil the Power Egan.
God, I don't think Giles really rates us, does he? I mean,
Speak for yourself.
Nice to think that might be true.
Well, I've often seen Phil sitting on Johnny Giles' knee in the green room before he goes on air, having a little chat.
Jesus.
It's live.
Tell me a story, Johnny.
Wow. It's funny you bring up the Masters and naming all the Masters winners. I think myself and Steve-O have been in a quiz once before. Remind me if you were there, Steve-O, alongside Dave McIntyre in Cardiff after a 0-0 friendly draw in about 2013. Was it Gareth Bale had just signed for Real Madrid and he was there sitting on the bench? And Dave McIntyre, so we were going for a nice relaxing drink in the middle of Cardiff on a cold Tuesday night at about 11:30. You know, we could chat about the match, we could chat about anything in life. And Dave decided to test us to who could go through the Masters winners from present day as far back as you possibly could. Steve-O, I kid you not, got up and walked away.
I try and do that now. It's not a good idea then.
I wish I had as well.
That is how you do it.
Cardiff isn't a city you want to be on your own in either, but there you go.
So just a reminder that the teams are Nathan and Steve-O, Will and John, and Phil and Dan, and it's going to be 3 rounds of teak tough Premier League trivia, and you'll have to work individually and as a team. More on that later to rack up points before we trundle onto the slip and slide of trivia, which is the rapid fire round, and we will of course crown our crappy quiz champions for this very special afternoon. Let's get straight into it. Round 1 is the Premier League Journeyman round. In this round, I'm going to give you the name of a former Premier League footballer that has played for a lot of teams. All you got to do is give me 4 of the clubs that the player has played for. So I will need 4. No conferring is allowed. And representing the teams in this round will be Nathan, John, and Phil. So question 1 for Nathan and Stephen, represented by Nathan here. Can you name 4 Premier League clubs that Tal Ben Haim has played for?
Chelsea.
Correct.
Portsmouth.
Correct.
Oof. Bolton.
Correct. 1 more.
Oh, like he does seem like the type of player who would have ended up at Sunderland at some stage during his career. I feel he went from Chelsea to... Didn't go to Liverpool at some stage, did he? I feel like there was a surprising loan move to like Liverpool or City. Oh, Tal Ben Haim, Bolton, Portsmouth, Chelsea, Castle.
Tick tock, tick tock.
Sunderland.
Correct. Boom. 1 point.
Get in.
Wow.
He played for 6 Premier League clubs: Bolton, Chelsea, Manchester City, Sunderland, Portsmouth, and West Ham.
Okay.
Right, question 1 for John and Will. Nathan and Steve-O are off the mark. John, you are answering this question. Can you name 4 Premier League clubs that Wayne Routledge has played for?
Crystal Palace.
Correct.
Newcastle.
Correct.
Swansea.
Correct. 1 more.
Tottenham.
Cool, calm, composed. 1 point. John
Work,
Duggan.
Jetty.
Easy work. The other clubs were Portsmouth, Fulham, and Aston Villa. So it's 1 apiece so far. Phil and Dan. Phil Egan, you're answering the question here. Can you name 4 Premier League clubs that, and this is the classic, that Marcus Bent played for?
Everton.
Correct.
Charlton.
Correct.
Ipswich.
Correct.
Leicester.
Correct. Good answer. Everybody off the mark. The full list of clubs that Marcus Bent has played for: Leicester, Blackburn, Ipswich, Everton, Charlton, Wigan, Crystal Palace, and Wolves. It is 1-1-1 after round 1. Round 2, the crazy Premier League results round. On the back of that start to the season, this round is going to test your knowledge on the Premier League's history of chaotic games and massive scorelines. No conferring allowed once again here, and representing the teams in this round will be Steve-O, Will and Dan. Question 2 for Nathan and Stephen. Stephen, you're answering this. When Leicester beat Southampton 9-0 last season, 2 players scored hat-tricks. Jamie Vardy scored one of them. Who scored the other one?
Oh, Christ.
Wasn't him.
But
why can't I remember this game? I've just had an absolute brain fart here. You're actually flat game.
Chief football commentator Nathan Murphy looking on disappointed.
Put me in, he's thinking. Put me in.
Come on, Steve-O, just think. Leicester. Think.
I actually can't even think of the Leicester team at the moment, and I actually commentated on their first game of the season this season. I swear to God. Crikey. I have Harvey Barnes in my head, but I know it's not Harvey Barnes. Oh, Christ.
Going to need to push you for an answer.
Oh, crikey.
9-0, 2 hat-tricks. Vardy with 1. Who scored the other?
Oh, God. Why can I think of this?
You're going to kick yourself.
No, I can't think of it. Sorry.
Are you passing on it? Going to have to...
it was Iosi Perez.
Correct. He got there eventually. He rooted around and plucked it from the arse pocket.
Talking about Fergie time there.
Go on, Steve-O.
An egg timer or something here we can introduce.
It was going to be dark by the time he got it.
I'm certainly no egghead anyway. God, my God.
Iosi Perez, great answer.
That's a dig at me, Steve.
Oh, myself.
Question 2 for John and Will, and answering this question is Will. Manchester United have been involved in 2 Premier League games that have seen 10 goals scored. One of the opponents was Arsenal in that 8-2 win. Who was the other team?
Yeah, they beat Ipswich 9-0.
Not 10 goals and 9-0 though.
Yes! Oh no! Oh, hubris undone by my own stupidity.
Anyone?
Last game for Fergie. West Brom.
5-all.
Yeah.
West Brom is the answer. Our first point dropped of the afternoon.
Oh, well.
Do we get a steal for that? No.
John, how do you feel about your team?
Just silence.
Silence.
It's like Seamus Coleman looking at the celebration the other day.
Question 2 for Phil and Dan. And Dan, you're answering this one. So which 2 clubs were involved in the highest scoring game in Premier League history when 11 goals were scored in a 7-4 classic in 2007?
God. I feel like I should know the answer to this. And Phil definitely knows the answer to it. I can tell he's looking frustrated at me there. I asked Enda what the quiz was. He said it's football. And I was like, oh, great. So I've been researching Euro 2020 stuff all on. And it's like Premier League trivia. It's like, I actually texted him specifically, it's general football. It's like, God. I'm not. I mean, Phil, you've got a weakness. Premier League trivia is not good for me here, pal. This is going to be a struggle. I was thinking it would be a Spurs-Man City game, but it's not that, is it? No.
Is that your answer?
Spurs and Man City? I don't remember.
No, it's not Spurs versus Manchester City. Anyone know the answer?
It's
Southampton?
Portsmouth and Reading.
Portsmouth and Reading.
Oh,
correct.
Isn't it the Chris Kamara one where Clare got sent off as he was watching it?
Oh, was that in that game?
I'm pretty sure it was that one.
Right, it was definitely a Reading game anyway. Right, round 3, and the scores are Nathan and Steve on 2, Will and John on 1, and Phil and Dan on 1. Round 3 is a double jeopardy Premier League round. Again, more Premier League trivia. You'll be happy to hear, Dan. In this round, everyone will have to answer a question. If both members of your team answer their questions correctly, your team will score 3 points. However, if only one of you gives me the correct answer, you will score just a single point. So you get an extra point for both of you getting the question correct. No correct answer obviously means 0 points. Question 3 for Nathan and Stephen. Nathan, can you give me any of the top 5 most expensive Leicester City signings in history? But before I tell you if you're right or wrong, actually give me the answer. And before I tell you if you're right or wrong, I'm going to ask Steve for his answer. So you go first with your answer.
Leicester's top 5 signings, any of them. Oh. I was going to say D. Could I just name the top 5 and then Steve can pick another one? What did they pay for Jose Perez on directly? James Maddison.
James Maddison. Steve-O?
Yeah. Well, the name Nathan just mentioned there was on my mind. Actually, the two Nathan mentioned there, definitely over 20.
I don't know what he's going for.
Oh, how about they only signed Castagna, but I'm not sure if he's top 5.
I need to push you here, Steve-O.
I've got to go for Tielemans.
Tielemans. I can tell you scored 1 point. Tielemans, their most expensive ever signing. James Maddison, their 7th most expensive signing. The rest of the
Wesley Fofana, I should have
Wesley
gone for.
Fofana, their 2nd most expensive signing. Jose Perez was their 3rd most. Islam Slimani was their 4th most expensive signing. And Kelechi Iheanacho in 5th. Question 3 for John and Will. So 1 point there for you, Nathan and Steve-O. Phil, can you give me... sorry, not Phil. John, if you want to start here. Can you give me any of the top 5 most expensive Wolves signings in history?
Are you making this up as you go along?
No, I just have my names wrong on my script here. This is for John and Will. So, John, you go first.
Nathan's had enough.
Nelson Semedo.
Nelson Semedo. Will?
Exactly who I was going to pick. Okay. Raul Jimenez.
Raul Jimenez. He scored 3 points, lads. Fair play. Raul Jimenez, their 2nd most expensive signing. Nelson Semedo, their 3rd most expensive signing. That kid you were trying to think of is their record signing. He is Fabio Silva, and the rest of the top 5 is Patrick Catrone and Johnny. Right. Johnny Otto. I've never seen his name.
I didn't curse there, by the way. No, okay.
Donny Castro.
I did curse, John, but listen,
It's okay.
We want a name and Dunphy kind of style apology there for you, John. Now.
I am actually tired after the 6-1 win the other day.
I would have docked a point off Will there for butchering the Jimenez Spanish pronunciation there. It was terrible.
Yeah.
Is that not a TH sound?
Yeah, it was pretty bad though. I would have you basically insulted the Spanish speaking.
Half of Mexico.
The entire Hispanic people.
This is commentator banter now, is it?
Oh, commentator. I was just going to make that point. Commentator banter is my favourite type of banter.
Sharp end of it here, I tell you.
Yeah, God. They know their J sounds from their H sounds. Yeah. Question 3 for Phil and Dan. Phil, can you name me any of the top 5 most expensive Everton signings in history?
I'm going to say Gylfi Sigurdsson.
Gylfi Sigurdsson. Dan?
Gylfi Sigurdsson.
Can they get back in the game? It's currently 3 to Nathan and Steve-O.
I'm thinking of a couple of English players, but I'm trying to think would they have spent more money on someone else. Surely they would have spent more money on someone else.
You could go Google there anyways, Dan.
There is no Google nearby. In fairness, these are good questions. They're actually very hard to prep for, to be fair, you wouldn't be expecting it.
Despite the compliment of the questions, I'm going to have to push you for an answer.
I don't know. Michael Keane?
Michael Keane's a good answer, but he's 7th most expensive signing ever since just outside.
Richarlison?
Richarlison, the 2nd most expensive signing. Sigurdsson, by the way, was most expensive. Say that again, Steve.
Klaassen?
Pickford and Keane are two.
No, Pickford, Klaassen not there. Romelu Lukaku, lads, in 3rd place. Alex Iwobi in 4th, and Yerry Mina, their 5th most expensive signing.
Iwobi.
I would not have got that.
So you do score a point there. So that leaves you on 2 points. Will and John are leading the way on 4 points, and Nathan and Steve-O are in 2nd place on 3 points. which brings us on to the rapid fire round. And this is how we're going to decide things today. In this round, you are all against the clock, and we will be giving you 40 seconds to answer as many questions as possible. We're going to be starting with the team in first place, which is Will and John, and then onto the team in second, which is Nathan and Steve-O, and then onto the team in last, which is Phil and Dan. Once you get a question wrong, I move on to the next team and deduct you 1 point. I'm also going to have to take the first answer that I hear. So, of course, you can't really confer across Zoom. So, whichever one I hear first, I'm going to go with. Right. So, Will, John, are you ready?
Yep.
Your time starts now. Name the only Ireland player to score a goal in the Stephen Kenny era so far.
Ben Duffy.
Correct. Theo Walcott signed for which Premier League club this week?
Southampton.
Correct. Against whom did Ireland play their last game at a major tournament?
France.
Correct. Who did Edison Cavani play for immediately before Paris Saint-Germain?
Napoli.
Correct. Arsenal, Molde, and which other team are in Dundalk's Europa League group?
Rapid Vienna.
Correct. Josh Cullen signed for which club this week?
Anderlecht.
Correct. Denise O'Sullivan is on loan at which English club?
Brighton and Hove Albion.
Correct. Who won the Golden Boot in the 2018 World Cup? Too long. Harry Kane. Name the Norwich City manager, Nathan, and
Steve Farke.
Correct. Name who did Everton sign Alan from?
Napoli.
Correct. Name the Celtic defender who broke lockdown restrictions in August, flying to Spain without telling the club.
No,
volleyball goalie. Who lost the 2002 World Cup? Phil and Dan.
Germany.
Correct, and that is time up.
Well, like brought on for the last few seconds of a game there we were.
Incredible display from Will and John, bringing home the bread. You finished on a score of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 points. 10 points against Nathan and Steve-O's 4 and Phil and Dan's 3. So it is a comfortable win for Will and John. That is it. You'll be happy to know.
Yeah. Listen, Dan, I was equally as surprised in the last quiz that we did. The format is absolutely brutal. It's so shoddy. It's so like the questions are so poorly put together. I have to say again this week. It's just I'm absolutely raging. I'm fuming. I'm angry.
It's unbelievable. It's like Premier League trivia out of left field, and we get to the rapid fire round. It's like what happened in the last week. You know, like do you remember what happened in the last week?
with our two news gurus. Come on.
It's like
kind of sussed that the last time as well.
Duggan would know this. It's like the draw in horse racing. It's like he's got the inside draw up the rail.
This is Chester and off the ball.
You cannot lose. You cannot lose.
Otherwise, it would all be for nothing the first 3 rounds. And if you get that inside lane, then you got a good chance of winning. Lads, thanks a million. That has been it. That has been a very special crappy quiz in association with Paddy Power. Congratulations once again to the 2 sports boffins, Will O'Callaghan and John Duggan.
The Paddy Power Half Hour on OTB Sports. Minimal contact in stadiums. That shouldn't stop the usual suspects from going down. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
Yes, you're very welcome along to the Paddy Power Half Hour. We are looking ahead to Ireland's crunch tie against Slovakia on Thursday night in Bratislava. You can listen to that full match on Off the Ball with Nathan Murphy and Stewie Byrne. Full live commentary from 7:45. I am joined on the line by former Republic of Ireland and Crystal Palace player Damien Delaney, Ireland and Peamount United player Stephanie Roche, and I'll be joined by Paddy Power as well a little bit later on as we look at the odds of this game. Damien, we'll start with you. This is a massive game for these Irish players, and pressure is something that's going to come into this. Irish players have spoken about nerves and feeling a little bit more nervous when they put on the Ireland shirt than in their club shirts. What part does pressure play in this sort of big game? Will these players be nervous going into this, or will they be full of confidence under Stephen Kenny?
No, you'd have to be nervous. I mean, anyone to tell you they're not nervous would be absolutely lying. Playing for your club is a little bit different. I suppose you always kind of look at your club as, without being cynical, as your job, you know, whereas playing for your country is a little bit different. It's special, and you have a chance, realistically, to change the mood of a whole country. So if we win tomorrow night, the whole country is going to be on an absolute high, and hopefully there'll be a mad rush to book tickets to the Euros if fans are actually allowed. But even if they're not, there's still going to be people booking holidays for when they're on, so they can stay at home, watch games, or hopefully go to pubs. So the players know that they've the weight of that not the weight of that on their shoulders, but they have kind of that in the palm of their hand. And if they do well, then they've the power to change the mood of a nation.
Did that come into your play when you were playing for Ireland? When you're compared to playing for Crystal Palace, did you question yourself a little bit more when you had the Ireland shirt on, when you're, say, passing it out from the back, or even just taking a bit more risks on the ball? That seems to be something that's been missing with Ireland over the last couple of years, is the players are almost scared to give it away and end up playing almost inside themselves a little bit.
Well, I suppose you could look at that two ways insofar as, I don't think there was an awful lot of structure for playing football in the previous regime. And I'm a big believer in players having structure, having kind of values of when a centre-back has the ball, he knows he has options, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I don't think there's a lot of that was off the cuff under the previous manager. And I think this manager is different. I think we already seen it, although it's not. I know a lot of people will say it wasn't great, but the two games he just had, you could see there was definitely a bit more structure. We definitely had more of the ball, and that's because players know when they have the ball, they know where their first option should be, their second look, their third look. But to go back to a previous question, then yeah, you do feel a bit more. I always felt way more nervous playing for my country because, like as I said to you, I was always able to separate my club to very, very professional. It's a job, I have to do it, and I'll do it to the best of my ability. Whereas when it's your country, and you're standing facing the tricolour, singing Aran Avian, it does hit you different. I don't care. Anyone will tell you different. One of the most emotional times I got in my life was on my debut when we played Serbia at Croke Park, of all places. And, when you're standing in Croke Park and Aran Avian is playing, it's different. It gets you different. So I'm pretty sure the players will be feeling that, but they've done it all before. And I'm sure Stephanie will agree as well. Well, I hope she'll agree that it's the same.
Yeah, Stephanie, another narrative going into this game is the fact that, against Bulgaria and against Finland, the players were coming back from without a pre-season in summer, and they hadn't played a lot of football. The likes of Shane Duffy had only played in once or twice in a couple of months for Brighton during the season as well. You yourself have been back in action for Peamount United. What is the difference from going straight into the season, the first couple of weeks when you're playing football, to when you have 3 to 4 games under your belt when it comes to this?
Yeah, it's huge. I think we've seen that in the couple of games, and as Damien touched on, I think there was a structure there in place with Stephen Kenny, and he wanted the guys to try and play a bit of football. But as you say, they hadn't played a lot of games. It's pre-season with everything that was going on in the world. It was a bit different, and getting themselves going in that game might have been a bit different. But I think, as you mentioned, they've got games under their belts now. A lot of the lads are playing first team football as well, which will definitely be important going into this game. They've played some big games, not just kind of pre-season friendlies, but actually back in their leagues as well. So I do think it's very important to mention that those 2 games coming in, obviously change in management, change in style of play, and also not having that pre-season or a lot of pre-season games will definitely have factored into it. So coming into this game, things are a lot different. Obviously, there hasn't been a lot of time with the squad for Stephen as well, but all these players will be coming in fully fit and hopefully raring to go for this game and ready to play for Stephen and play for the country. And as Damien says, if the country ever needed a lift, it's now, so hopefully they'll be able to do that for us.
So having seen those games against Bulgaria and Finland and taking into account the 3 or 4 weeks now that the players have had to get the rustiness out of the system, get some energy back in their legs, what would you be expecting Ireland to do a little bit differently against Slovakia this Thursday, Stephanie?
I think just a bit more energy. I think, as we've seen, Stephen Kenny obviously has his philosophy and how he wants to play, and he wants the lads to kind of not fear going into games. I think in the past we probably would have went into games against the countries who are kind of close to us or maybe a little bit better, maybe going in trying to get a draw. Obviously, this is a one-off game, so I'm sure Stephen has these players ready going into the game to win the game and not go in kind of with a negative attitude. We want to get on the ball, we want to play, we want to create chances. And I think, as I said, in the last 2 games, maybe the energy wasn't there as much because the fitness wasn't there. So hopefully with the lads having that bit of match in pre-season under their belts and the couple of games in the Premier League and the other leagues they've been playing in, that will help, and they'll have that energy to be able to kind of to put into practice and put into place that the game that Stephen Kenny wants them to play, and that seems to be high energy, get on the ball and play football, and that's what all the fans, I suppose, have been given out about that we haven't seen over the years. So hopefully we can see that on Thursday.
I actually completely agree with that, because a lot of players were asked to play 290 minutes in a space of 3 or 4 days, which realistically in pre-season for your club you never would do. I mean, you probably play 45 in 1 of 2 games, let alone 2 90s back to back. So that's why the second game I thought the players looked a little bit more lethargic and a little bit tired. Shane Duffy, looked like he was breathing heavy, but people, so early in pre-season and to play 2 90 minutes back to back is tough.
Paddy Power's with us now as well. Paddy, I presume that since Slovakia are the home side and they do have a good home record, they're going into this game as favourites.
Just about, though. I mean, there's nothing between the two teams really on previous form. Not that you can read too much into that, but I think it's great to hear the guys with a bit of experience. Like, I'm coming in here like a fan, all a bit excited about tonight, this great game, and then you look down at the odds, and like you said, Slovakia are just favourites at 6-4. Ireland are 19-10, which is just under 2-1. So there's nothing between the two teams really. In theory, it should be a draw because they're so closely matched in previous encounters. But the favourite for scoring the first goal in the match is actually no goal. So that might put into perspective how tight it's going to be from a betting perspective if you can read into it. But I mean, it's great to hear it. Like, I mean, I think you do read into like what the guys were saying about, you know, a few games under their belt and all that kind of thing. And I did hear some commentators saying that it was defence that takes a bit longer than attack to kind of mould in at the start of a season. And judging by the Premier League at the weekend, there's still a bit of work to do with some of the defence as well.
Yeah, and as meaningless as the FIFA rankings are, there's only one difference between Slovakia and Ireland. Slovakia just about ahead of Ireland in the world rankings at the minute. Speaking of defence, one of the things that has been a conversation throughout Stephen Kenny's career as Ireland manager is the short term that he's been in charge, and also the end of Mick McCarthy's tenure, was Seamus Coleman or Matt Doherty. That decision has sort of been taken out of Stephen Kenny's hands here, Damien. Matt Doherty likely to start here because Seamus Coleman is a doubt for the game. Probably not going to feature, as Stephen Kenny said in his press conference over the weekend. Matt Doherty spoke during the week after Tottenham's European game about the difference between playing in a back four and a back three. Can you talk us through that? I know you're a centre-back yourself, but what is the key differences between playing three at the back with two wing-backs and a flat back four?
Ultimately, for Matt, it's a case of when he attacks, he knows he has a right side of three centre-backs, so he's almost as an extra right back, so he doesn't have to track back as quick, or he doesn't have to worry about the ball in behind him, because he knows that he can go and press his opposite wide man, and if the ball does get spun over his head, the right side of three will usually be already in that channel, whereas when you're playing in a back four and you've got two centre-backs, they'll usually be pretty narrow and pretty central. So if you go and press the wide player and the ball gets spun over your head, there's a huge gaping hole there. And if you've got a centre-back, and I'm not saying I was one of them, but if you've got a centre-back that doesn't like going out wide, most of them will probably head towards goal and scream at the right back, you know, because centre-backs don't necessarily want to get dragged out into wide areas in open spaces, because if they get caught 1v1 in wide spaces, not me, I mean, I loved going out there, to be honest with you, but if you do get dragged out there. So that's the main difference from him, is that he has to pick and choose his times. Now, I suppose he's lucky that he's Shane Duffy alongside him in some cases, but I know that Shane is one that won't like to be dragged out towards near the touchline, so Shane will usually kind of bunker in the middle of the park, and that's why in some of the games you saw there might be, you know, spaces for the opposition to expose. But I suppose, look, that's the tactical side of it, to be honest with you. Yeah.
You mentioned Shane Duffy. Of course, that is another topic of conversation that has been dominating the headlines over the last couple of weeks. Shane Duffy has been playing for Celtic over the last couple of weeks. He's been playing as the right-hand side of a back three, which was an interesting choice from Neil Lennon. I would have thought that he would have been more suited to the centre of it. What differences do you think you'll see in Shane Duffy now, Damien, as a centre-back? Will it be easy for him to adjust back into a back four, being the right side of defence, or do you think we'll see a vast improvement on him since the Bulgaria and Finland games?
That's not all that strange, playing left-foot players on the right. A lot of managers, a lot of coaches I spoke to like doing that, because Shane being naturally left-footed, his first tendency is to go in the park, and some managers want to play through the middle. So, I mean, if Shane's playing on the left and it comes in his left foot, it's going to be outside his body, so his initial pass is going to be to his left wing back. Whereas if he's left-footed playing on the right-hand side, your tendency is to go infield all the time, and depending on how the manager wants to play. I'm not saying Celtic want to play that way, but it's not all that crazy for a left-footed player to play on the right-hand side. But look, for me, Shane Duffy is one of the first names on the team sheet for Ireland. I think he's brilliant. I think he's talismanic. He's a character. He's huge. He's a presence, not only, you know, on the pitch in terms of like defending, but attacking set pieces as well. I mean, that can't be underestimated, the amount of goals that he can get you over the course of a qualifying campaign, and even, you know, the game on Thursday night could be crucial. Shane Duffy at set pieces, but look, it was spoken about at length about him passing the ball. But, you know, Shane probably understands he's not ever going to be Franz Beckenbauer. And I said after the game, he just needs to simplify his game. You know, if James McCarthy's sitting in number 6 and Matt Doherty's at right back, they're your first 2 looks as a centre-back if you don't want to overcomplicate it. But sometimes I thought Shane, especially early in the games, was travelling into midfield with the ball at his feet. And that's very, 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 very tricky unless you're Virgil van Dijk, because if you lose the ball, there's all sorts of holes behind you. So if I was him, and I've been in his position before, just simplify your game. Just give it to James McCarthy, give it to Matt Doherty, and that's your job done.
Yeah, Stephanie, I do want to ask you about Ireland's forwards and who we should be starting up there. But first, Paddy, Shane Duffy to score here. He's been Ireland's top goal scorer over the last couple of years. He must be probably one of the favourites to score for Ireland, is he?
He's not quite. He's still not going. He's probably not going to play him up front, so he can't be favourite. But he's 10-1 to score a header at all during the match. He's 17-1 to score the first goal, and 9-1 to score any which way. But 10-1 for a header in normal time, of course. So yeah, let's hope. It'd be nice if he popped up. I mean, I personally think it's going to go all the way. It's going to be one of those nights. It's going to be pretty dramatic the whole way through. We'll be waiting maybe for penalties at the end, but hopefully Duffy will pop up with a header at some stage.
Dramatic meaning boring. No,
I wouldn't say boring. It's not going to be boring if you're chasing a last-minute equaliser and you get it, and it goes to extra time. Then there's a few off-the-line clearances, and then suddenly we go to penalties, and I know they missed their first 3. That'll be boring if we just saunter home in a penalty shootout.
Stephanie, the Irish forwards haven't really been scoring over the last couple of years. Aaron Connolly's getting some time under Brighton now. David McGoldrick did score at the weekend for Sheffield United. He's been playing a bit more centrally and a bit deeper as almost a number 10. Who would you like to see starting for Ireland in this game? Would you go for Aaron Connolly out wide with Callum Robinson and Dave McGoldrick through the middle? Do you think Adam Enda should be starting there, or what's your preference up front?
I think you've got to look at the form of players. I think obviously McGoldrick didn't start against Finland. You had Adam Enda who came in and started up front, but I think McGoldrick obviously got Player of the Year last year. He was probably one of our best players and was very good in a couple of the games, but again, it was just kind of getting those few games under his belt. I think having Aaron Connolly outside him, I think at times McGoldrick likes to kind of go wandering to get the ball, but I think he's at his best when he's in the box. We have players like Aaron Connolly and maybe Callum O'Dowd as well, started out right against Finland. There's a lot of choice out there to play, but my preference would probably be McGoldrick up front. I think he kind of proven himself in the last few games before all the kind of COVID hit. I think he just seems to have that little bit of quality, and as you mentioned, he's scoring goals as well. But Aaron Connolly out left as well, I think needs to start. I think he's starting in a Brighton team who are playing really good football at the minute as well. So I think he's a player who I'd like to see play too.
Having played up front yourself and sort of as a forward player, Aaron Connolly, he plays centrally for Brighton during the year most of the time, or at least he definitely veers in there quite a lot. He's been starting under Stephen Kenny as sort of the left winger or the left wing forward. Can you explain to us what the difference is there in that position and how difficult it is for a forward to actually cut in inside and get inside his man and get into the box like Aaron Connolly wants to do?
I think for Aaron Connolly, he's quite dynamic. I think he's pacey, he's quick, and if you look at the players that kind of have been playing out there, that's the kind of the attributes they need to have. I think he probably prefers to play through the centre. He prefers to maybe getting in on goal a little bit rather than running down the line for balls to cross in or maybe cutting in to shoot. But I think when you look at the players that are playing there, I think McGoldrick is probably the one who I would play up through the centre, as I wouldn't kind of put him wide. And I think what Kenny is trying to do is he's trying to fit his best players on the pitch. And I think Aaron Connolly is one of the best forward players. So if he has to play out left, I'm sure he'll be happy just to be playing in the game. But I do think that as a centre forward and you're used to playing in the centre forward position, you kind of just have to adjust your game a little bit. But I think the way Aaron Connolly plays, he wants to get the ball down, he wants to run with it, and he wants to get at players. And I think he can do that as well from out wide as he will in centre as well. So I don't think it will be an issue for him playing out left. I think he'll relish a chance to get on the ball and get at players. And as you say, he can cut inside and get shots off. He has the ability to play little thread through balls through to kind of the likes of McGoldrick and whoever might be playing on the right hand side or midfield's following up the play. So I think playing out left won't be a problem to him. I think, as I said, Kenny will just be trying to fit his best players into the system that he wants to play.
Damien, I'm wary bringing up the Bulgaria-Finland games because they were friendlies and there was no pre-season leading into them, but it is pretty much all we have to go off so far under Stephen Kenny. He made 3 changes in the midfield. He changed it all together for the Finland game and the Bulgaria game. In this game going against Slovakia, do you go with James McCarthy in a deeper role with another man playing another dipper and then maybe Jeff Hendrick linking the attack and the forward, or do you go a flat midfield 3 that's a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more attacking? Which would your preference be going into this game?
I suppose my preference, if I was coaching, would be with 2 number 6s. I always like 2 number 6s because it frees up the other attacking 4 players. So if your 2 wide players, your number 8, I suppose, really, and your number 9 have a bit more freedom and less responsibility defensively. So when you go with 1 number 6, you kind of always have to mind the house a little bit. You don't want to leave that 1 number 6 exposed. So I'll probably go with James McCarthy and Conor Horan in the number 6, and Conor will go and join in naturally anyway. And I'd probably go with Jeff as an 8, really, just in front of them, and then Aaron Connolly and perhaps Callum Robinson wide. And I just have a funny feeling he's going to start Adamida. I think Stephen Kenny's whole kind of tactical philosophy needs somebody to stretch in the pitch in behind, and Adam Ida probably is the only one, with the exception of maybe Shane Long, that stretches the pitch in behind. Because if you play with a number 9 that comes to feed all the time, the opposition back 4 just keep creeping and creeping and creeping, and the whole thing gets condensed, and then it's really, really difficult to play football, which is what happened when McGoldrick plays as a number 9. Now, I'm with Stephanie there. I do believe that McGoldrick is probably too good a player to leave on the bench. So, whether you go with McGoldrick as a number 10, with James McCarthy and Conor Horan kind of as 2 number 6s is a possibility. Because I think McGoldrick is a terrific player, but I'm not sure he fits into Stephen's kind of philosophy as a number 9. But then again, I mean, you could always go about it the way Liverpool go about it, where their number 9 comes short, but the 2 wide players going behind. So, there's several different ways you go about it. But I think you have to have a threat in behind. Otherwise, opposition back 4s just come right up in the halfway line and kill all your space.
So what's been going on with James McCarthy then, Damien, in your eyes? Because he was playing at the weekend. He's been playing for Crystal Palace over the last couple of months as well. He was excellent against Manchester United, but in an Ireland shirt just doesn't seem to work. Is there something different that they're doing that we're not?
See, I disagree with you totally there, because he didn't play for Ireland for 2 years because he was injured, and then he come back and he played against Bulgaria, I think it was. The Bulgaria game he played in, and he was injured for Crystal Palace in midfield, and I've watched all the Crystal Palace games, and I think he's been pretty decent for Crystal Palace this year. I thought he was quite decent against Chelsea at the weekend. He obviously hasn't got 90 minutes in his legs because he very rarely lasts 90 minutes for Palace, but he's been pretty good since the season started, and he actually picked up an injury. I think it was a slight hamstring injury in pre-season where he missed a couple of weeks of training, and he missed a couple of games. So it's very hard to judge him on one game when he's not had a proper pre-season, but he's been playing regularly for Crystal Palace now, and I think he's been pretty decent, to be honest with you, this year, and I'm almost certain that he'll start the game on Thursday night.
Couple of players to keep an eye on for Slovakia. Obviously, you have Heimschik, who's playing in China, but the club he's playing for are currently second bottom in their league, and then Stanislav Lobotka, who's currently playing for Napoli, one of the most highest rated Slovakian players at the minute, may not actually play in this game because of a mix-up in COVID regulations. Napoli were supposed to play Juve at the weekend. That game was abandoned because a Napoli player had tested positive and Napoli didn't travel. So it's unsure whether he's going to play there. Stephanie, how is this game going to be won and lost for Ireland? Do you see Ireland dominating possession? Do you see Slovakia dominating most of possession? Or where do you think this is going to lie?
I think it will be a shared possession. I can't see any team really dominating. I think Lobotka, if he isn't playing, I think that's a huge plus for Ireland, because I think he is a player who likes to get on the ball in the 6, and he's kind of one of these players who can get on it really deep, but then at the same time he'll be on the edge of the Ireland box, maybe getting shots off a combination play. So he will be a big loss for Slovakia. I think that would be great if he's not involved. But I can see it being a kind of shared possession game. I think, as we mentioned before, Stephen will want the Ireland players getting on the ball and wanting to play, and we hopefully will see that. I think the fitness in the players will be a huge thing, and the match sharpness as well. But I think it will be a shared possession. I can't see anybody really dominating the game. I hope, as I said, that we can get on the ball and we can create chances and keep tight at the back end, and hopefully we can get the goal and a few goals and win the game. But I think, as I said, it will be kind of 50-50 possession. I don't think anybody will really dominate the game, but hopefully we can get on the ball and play.
Paddy, where are the odds favouring this? Is it Ireland to score from a set piece? How are Ireland going to win this game if they're going to win this? And are the odds favouring Ireland to actually qualify at all from this?
It's almost a toss of a coin. Slovakia are just favourites to qualify as well. They're 3-4, and Ireland are 21-20, a little bit better than even money. So, not much in it really. I mean, as I said earlier, a draw is as likely an outcome as an Ireland win. It's 19-10 for the draw. that's where it could be. Like maybe a goal each is what some of the suggestions, some of the predictions would suggest, is one each after normal time, into extra time. Then who knows what happens? But it's 11-1 for Ireland to win extra time and 15-2 to win on penalties. So and 7-2 for the match to go to penalties. So it's all possible. It's all there. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's, some of the Ireland games have been pretty boring. I think this one, there's so much at stake. I think it's going to be a pretty tension sandwich brigade, so it'll be nice.
Speaking of penalties, myself and Phil Egan were actually just chatting about this game in the office earlier on, and we were trying to name Ireland's penalty takers if it actually goes to penalties. So I'm going to put you two on the spot as well now, because I couldn't actually think of the 5 people, because you obviously have to take into account that if it goes to penalties, the likes of Dave McGoldrick probably won't be on the pitch unless he comes on as a substitute and isn't starting in the game. James McCarthy's unlikely to be on the pitch. Will Jeff Hendrick last the 120 minutes? Robbie Brady's certainly not going to be there if he starts the game. Stephanie, I'll start with you. Who would be your first, even if you have 3 names, who would be the first 3 names that you would have as an Ireland penalty taker?
I suppose if you're talking about players who will most likely be on the pitch for the whole game, I'd say Shane Duffy will definitely fancy his chances in getting on the score sheet from the penalty spot. Maybe Aaron Connolly as well, if he's still on. I know, again, he'd probably be running a lot throughout the game. He might not be on. If you've mentioned the players who probably I would have picked straight away would be Jeff Hendrick, Robbie Brady, but again, players who maybe might not play the whole game. But I'd say probably the likes of Matt Doherty would be probably a player who might be on the pitch long enough to take a penalty. Enda Stevens might want to get on one as well. So I think there's a lot of players who will fancy their chances. I don't think there'll be anybody who will shy away from having to take one. So if I'm honest, I'm not really too worried about the penalty takers. I think, as I said, there's a lot of players there with technical ability to be able to take a penalty and put it home. So hopefully we won't have to worry about that and we can finish the game in normal time. But I think there are enough players on the pitch who will, I think, be man enough to get up and take that penalty and slot it home.
Yeah, Shane Duffy, the first man on Stephanie Roche's penalty list. Damien, did you ever take a penalty?
Never, absolutely.
Is that because you weren't ever allowed to take a penalty, or did you ever put your hands up?
They wouldn't even let me take penalties in training. I suppose the first name for me would be, if he's still on the pitch, which he most likely will be, would be Conor Horan. He's a set piece specialist. His set piece delivery is fantastic. So I'd be pretty sure that he'd be the first name for me if he was still on the pitch. Followed by Aaron Connolly. He looks to have a nice swagger about him. Probably not short of confidence. And then after that, it's probably into a toss of a coin, to be honest with you, because you never know who's going to be on the pitch.
Before I get your actual predictions going into this game, Damien, where do you think this game's going to be won and lost? Do you think Ireland have enough going forward to actually get past the Slovakia side?
I do, yeah. I think it's going to come down to belief, really, and because the teams are so evenly matched. Not just with the prices with Paddy there, but I just think on paper, when you look at it, they really are small, and usually that'll be a matter of confidence. Which team is the better prepared? Which team has the most confidence in applying what they've been asked by the manager? And I'm hopeful that it'll be Ireland.
So I'll start from top right on my screen. So that's Stephanie. Stephanie, your prediction for this game? Ireland to qualify?
Yeah, I'm going to go 2-1 Ireland. Probably a little bit more of my heart saying that, but I think, as Damien mentioned, it's going to be a tight game. But I think Ireland will be set up properly in defence, and hopefully they don't concede. But if they do concede, I think they have enough going forward to be able to get the goals. So hopefully, with the games under their belts, as we mentioned before, they might be able to create a couple more chances for our forwards and we can get the win. But I'm going to go out and say 2-1.
Paddy?
I think it's going to be 1-1 after normal time. It's going to be a very tense extra time, and it'll go to penalties, and there'll be nothing in it. And then at the very end, Shane Duffy will be taking the last one. He's going to kneel down and take it with his head and put it in the top corner.
I'd like to see that. Damien, your prediction for this game?
I'd probably be leaning towards Paddy there as well. I think it'll be a draw over 90 minutes. And I think it might be decided in extra time, and obviously penalties will be toss of a coin as well, to be honest. So I'm going to go for a draw over 90 minutes.
I always thought you were an optimist, Damien. I thought you were going to go for an automatic win.
No, I'm a realist as well. I just think that my heart is just telling me that the two sides are too evenly matched. There'll be very little risk taken, and barring any refereeing input with a red card or penalty or anything like that, I think that both sides will probably be too even to separate.
All right, good stuff. Well, hopefully we do have a win on our hands on Thursday night. Remember that live commentary of that will be on Off the Ball with Nathan Murphy and Stewie Byrne at 7:45 kickoff in Bratislava. Damien Delaney, Stephanie Roche and Paddy Power, thank you.
Thanks. Cheers, Enda. Thanks.
That was the Paddy Power half hour. This is our Paddy Power special ahead of Ireland versus Slovakia on Thursday night in the Euro 2020-2021 qualifier. We do have a very special interview coming up after this at 5 o'clock. We have Kevin Phillips, Kevin Kilbane and Niall Quinn. So a Sunderland loving. It is the anniversary of Niall Quinn's 2001 goal against Cyprus, where he became Ireland's leading goal scorer as well. So we'll have to wish him a happy birthday on his 54th birthday as well. That's coming up after 5 o'clock. But ahead of this game, Stephen Kenny was chatting to the press, and here's what he had to say about this game.
You know, it's a tough game. You've got to go away to Slovakia. They've obviously good home form and very consistent team and experienced team. But the other side of it is it's a tremendous opportunity for us, and we know the opportunity that does exist, and the possibility of the European Championships in Ireland is unique, really. It's never happened before, may never happen again, we don't know. So it's so I think that's like that kind of motivation to sort of lift the country. Like it would be an incredible experience for the whole country. So we're a long way away from that, because we've got a tough game in Slovakia, and that's only a semi-final. So we're a long way away from that, and I think we've got to do something extraordinary and win away from home again, and we'll be planning with everything we have to try and achieve that.
Would it be, to use that terrible phrase, a horses for courses type approach and selection?
No, I don't. I know what you mean. You have to adapt your team to certain situations, and I do accept that point. But we'll approach the game in a positive frame of mind, and we won't be. We're unlikely to be cautious. I would say that.
Stephen, will there be any more call-ups then?
There will, yeah. We've called up Kevin Long. Okay, so Kevin Long is can consider himself probably rather unfortunate not to be included in the first place, I would say. And he's been playing regularly in the Premier League. Which is, and he's played for Ireland, has good experience. So we're delighted to have Kevin in the squad. And we will, assess everything else and make one or two calls maybe later this evening.
Shane Duffield steps in as captain with James out. What have you made of his performances since moving to Celtic?
Right, I think the good thing for Shane is a lot of games. He's had a game every 3 or 4 days, and he's not had that for a long time. So certainly, that's a positive, I would say. I think, they've had games in the Europa League, and they played against Sarajevo the other night, so they've managed to qualify for the group stages. He's been a part of that. They've kept clean sheets, and I think the more football he plays, the better he'll be. I think that's playing regularly is what he needs, and I think that can only be a good thing for him, I feel.
Would you apply that to the whole team? Because it did look as if players were getting sluggish in the last couple of games towards the end of the match. Would you expect performance against Slovakia to be an awful lot better and much sharper because of the games the players have played since?
Yeah, well, obviously we finished the game very strong against Bulgaria, and I think obviously we scored late, and we had the majority of that game. We were in the ascendancy for the majority of that game, bar some sort of counter-attacks. Against Finland, we tired for certain in the last 20 minutes in that midfield area, and it was just because it was in the pre-season. Players haven't played games, and and throughout we probably faded in that game against Finland in the last quarter for sure. I think that was certainly in pre-season mode, but a lot of the players have played a lot of games, since then, and I don't see that as a factor at all.
I'll just ask you about Jack Byrne. I suppose he got the ultimate test for this kind of level of football against AC Milan. I know you were there with Keith Andrews. What did you make of that performance, and would it give you hope that he is ready for a game like this if you were to throw him in either from the start or at some stage?
Yeah, I suppose Jack has a lot of different qualities than other players have. We have sort of athletic midfield players with different players that are comfortable playing deeper in midfield. Jack probably offers an alternative to that, and that quite creative player, plays high in midfield and has a great range of passing, and I think he's been playing well for a while now, and he's certainly an addition to the squad.
Do you think that maybe in a game like that against Milan, there were times where his lack of physicality maybe went against him, and he kind of gets, maybe not protecting the ball as much as you'd like to see at that level?
Not protecting the ball, he's tremendous at protecting the ball. I get your point that physically you can only be who you are. You can't be something you're not, like. But I think I thought he played very well, and he's backed that up with a couple of good performances as well in recent weeks. So he'll certainly be an addition to us.
Okay, thanks, Stephen. Gavin.
Stephen, are you calling someone up to replace Seamus, or is there a call yet to be made on that?
Yeah, I'll make a call on that later on. Yeah. So I will be indeed.
So we'll see someone called up. Is it?
Yeah.
We'll issue an update this evening after.
Well, I we have to just clear everything first with the club and with the players in question. So we just have to confirm everything first.
You said that you'd achieve something.
Because we've only really had the news on Seamus' results of a scan. That's why I was sort of a bit delayed getting here. We've only really had that, He had a scan this morning, and we only really had that there, So I think we just had to. So obviously, it wasn't unexpected. So we have a plan, but we just have to communicate everything properly before we can announce it.
Yeah, you mentioned, you described a win in Slovakia as would be something extraordinary. How do you give the players the belief that they can go and do it? Or do you have to?
Well, I think that sorry, just a second. Aye. Just my asthma. Apologies for that. You listen. It's a great opportunity to play Slovakia. I think this game has been, spoken about for a long time now, and I think it'll be great to actually, the players will look forward to playing in it. The games in the Nations League, where obviously we had an opportunity to look at increasing our options in the forward areas, increasing the options in the midfield areas, and see what worked and didn't work. And we got a lot of positives from some of the things we worked on. Some areas that we definitely need to improve on, and I think this is a great game that everyone is really looking forward to. It's an incredible, it's a great opportunity, and I think the players themselves realise that. I think Slovakia will be highly motivated, of course. They're at home, and I think that there'll be an expectation there because they're at home, and but I think from our point of view, we'll make sure that we're very, very well prepared, and that we're that we'll be ready to go.
Now, we are very happy to say that this evening we will be reuniting one of the great Premier League partnerships. We're going to start, first of all, with the main man, I think you'll agree. Kevin Phillips, hello.
How are we doing? You okay?
Got to get you in first. I mean, we'll bring in the other fella in a few minutes' time. We've got to start with you. How are things? Where in the world are you?
I'm actually down in Newmarket. Come down to visit my daughter. She's just got an apprentice jockey's licence, so we was down celebrating, and watching the Arc on Sunday as well, hoping that Frankie might get a win because he's a local lad and it would have been celebration. So it was a bit flat on Sunday. But yeah, I'm down here with my daughter, spending some time with her, which is great.
That is a dangerous profession she's gone for.
Yeah, it is, but I kind of not try to think about it. She certainly does, and she's very brave. And it's some sight when you go and watch them at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning when there's 200, 300, 400 horses out on Warren Hill, which is very famous here. But it's impressive, and she's lucky enough to do something that she loves, which obviously I did, and the bonus is you get paid for it as well. So yeah, she's loving life down here.
Yeah, I would think a beautiful sight in the morning with the sun coming up and the steam coming off the horses.
That's amazing. Yes, amazing. I'm not a particularly big horsey person, but even I'm in awe when I come down and see that.
And can you ride a horse?
No, but I think I've been down here now a couple of weeks, and one of the Irish jockeys, Dara Keenan, he's desperate to get me on a horse, and I did say to him at some point I might have a go, but at the minute, no.
So you have been going down the coaching route of late as well. I know there were stints at Leicester and Derby and Stoke. Are you still into it? Do you want to keep going? Did you enjoy it? Do you want more of that?
Yeah, I did. I really enjoyed it. It's a different, it's a big transition from playing. I went from playing straight into coaching at Leicester under Nigel Pearson. Didn't have any of my coaching qualifications, so I had to quickly get through those. And at the start, it was difficult to make that transition. But as time went on, I really enjoyed it. And it looked like it was going to become probably a way of life for me, but football being football, before you know it, you're out of a job. And my last job was a year and a half ago, I think, at Stoke under Gary Rowett. He's gone into Mill. Unfortunately, he couldn't take enough coaches in, so I found myself not in a job. But yeah, I'd like to get back in if I can, but it's very, very difficult. But I have to say, I'm really enjoying doing my media stuff now. I'm doing a fair bit of that. So but if I can get back in, then of course I would love to.
It's so competitive, and I would think this year, with everything going on, a lot of things have just shut down, so trying to look for a job is especially difficult.
Yeah, and I think what a lot of clubs have done, and at Millwall with Gary, they've had to promote within, which I totally understand. So yeah, you're right. There's hundreds and hundreds of ex-players who want to be coaches, hundreds of players that have got qualifications, but it's very, very difficult. So, but I'm very fortunate that, I do get a fair bit of media work, and, I'll continue to pursue that avenue until anything changes.
To touch on your career at completely the opposite end of the spectrum then, am I right in saying that you spent about 4 years at Southampton, and a fair stint of that was at right back? You were too small to play up top? Was that this is a real old school approach now. He's small, he can't play up front.
Yeah. And that was the case. I'd always been a striker. I managed to get a 2-year apprenticeship down at Southampton, so I moved down there as a striker, but was told very quickly that you're not strong enough, you're not big enough to become a striker just yet. We see you as a right fullback, and it's either you take it or you don't play. So I took the option of I want to play week in and week out. So I opted to play right back. I played there for 2 years, didn't make the grade, got released by Chris Nicholl. And then I had to come home and try and find another avenue back into professional football. So I was very lucky that Ian Allison, the old Arsenal winger, was manager of a local side where I was from, and he gave me a trial. And it was only really one Friday night that he rang me up and said, I'd heard that you were a striker. He said, we haven't got no strikers tomorrow. Would you play? I said, of course. Went up top the next day, scored 2 goals and never looked back. So, yeah, it's right. I did play right back for fullback for 2 years.
If he had left you at right back, would you have been good enough to play professionally at the level you played at as a right back?
No, definitely not. I was useless at defending. all I wanted to do was attack, and I'd quite often find myself like a wing back nowadays. And back then, it was forbidden. The breaks had to come on when you hit the halfway line. But nowadays fullbacks are totally different. But no, I don't think I would have made it as a fullback in today's game.
So you make your way at Watford, and then tell us about Peter Reid. There's a loudspeaker conversation, and he likes the sound of your name.
Yeah, well, I went to Watford. I was very lucky that someone plucked me out of non-league, given a second chance. Spent 2.5 years at Watford, and then it was time to move on. Couldn't agree a contract. Agreed a contract with Ipswich Town. We drove up, me and my agent, to sign the contract. When we got there, we were told that Watford and Ipswich couldn't agree a fee. And the only way they could do it was by going to a tribunal. And I think Ipswich were taking a player to a tribunal, and you couldn't take 2 at the same time. So I would have had to wait, I think it was about 10 days, which I wasn't prepared to do. So me and my agent just sat in the car, and I was like, what are we going to do? I can't go back to Watford. I can't sign here. And he said, I know for a fact that Peter Reid at Sunderland likes you. They've just got relegated from the Premier League. They're moving into a magnificent new stadium. There's plans for a new training ground to be built. And he said, I'll give him a ring. And so we put him on the speakerphone in the car. I made out I wasn't there because I didn't want to. And as soon as he mentioned my name, my agent, to Peter Reid, he said, I'll get him up here now. He said, bring him up, I'll sign him. And it happened that quick. And before I knew it, I'd packed my car the next morning. I drove all the way to Sunderland, which seemed about 6 or 7 hour drive from where I was. And I put pen to paper and, never looked back.
You sure didn't. Well, let's bring in your partner in crime then. Niall Quinn, evening.
Hey, gents, how are you doing?
How are you doing, Niall?
Good, Kev. Yeah, nice to speak to you. I think you've forgotten my number, but anyway, we'll speak here.
Yeah, steady.
No, really good to speak to you.
Well, listen,
you, mate.
It's great to have you on. By the way, we should wish you a happy birthday, Niall.
I was trying to keep it quiet, actually. They're happening too fast these days.
I can imagine they are. Well,
happy birthday, mate.
Cheers, Kev.
Do you want to guess his age, Kev? I mean, it's up to you.
Well, I would say I'm not a million miles behind him, but no, I'll leave it up to Niall if he wants to tell us.
No, we won't force him. Here, Niall, 19 years ago to the day on your birthday, we'll remind you of a good birthday for sure. Just have a listen to this.
Jump for Kilbane. Kilbane towards Quinn. Here he goes. There's the record. What a goal it was. A classic centre-forwards goal. A perfect cross. And Quinn with a diving header. A great way to get it.
There we are. And then some fella called Robbie Keane came along, but we won't mention him for now. So,
exactly.
First impressions, Niall, of Kevin Phillips when he pitched up at Sunderland?
Well, to be honest with you, we heard rumours that David Connolly, who was at Watford at the same time, was coming up, and the local press were saying the same thing. So we were waiting for David Connolly to come through the gates, and Kevin Phillips came through. We didn't know a lot about him. We saw his record. He scored a few goals. But straight away, the first training session, you could see the intent was there, not just to be part of the group and just, make up the numbers. He was really hot to trot, and everybody went, hey, this guy looks decent. And it wasn't long then before, I think we played Man City in his first game at the Stadium of Light, and he had a fantastic opening game for Sunderland. He caught everybody's imagination and literally hit the ground running. So we knew probably very quickly that Peter Reid had stolen one from Watford.
At that stage in your career, Niall, as I understand it, you were, I don't know if disillusioned is the word, but certainly injuries had taken their toll. You might have been ready to pass on what was to turn out to be the great Indian summer in your career.
Yeah, very close. I even had the papers delivered to me by Gordon Taylor in the PFA about how I would quit and maximise my pension, all that kind of talk, because I was really struggling with a knee injury. I'd had my second cruise shit. I'd done my first cruise shit ahead of the World Cup in '94, my left leg, and then I did my right leg 5 games into my Sunderland career. So finding the path back was hard. I wasn't playing as good as I could. The injury was troubling me. And at that particular time, I was almost washed up. And Kev Phillips came in the gates of the Charlie Hurley Training Centre, and I say, I'm not just saying it here on radio, but I say it to everybody, I had the best 5 years of my career thereafter. It was a combination of a surgeon named Mr. Bollen who corrected, had a procedure, corrected my knee a few weeks after Kev arrived, and when I got back, eventually the two of us hit it off. And look, we'll both say that without the likes of Nicky Summerby and Alan Johnson, who were putting all the ammunition up towards us, that we wouldn't have got anywhere near where we did. But at the same time, I'll always be grateful. Kevin Phillips gave me the most enjoyable 5 years of my career.
And it really did work out beautifully for you both. I mean, you both flourished. Even Niall, I was just looking at the stats to jog the memory. You played 204 games for City, 66 goals. Like, you played 203 for Sunderland. It was like you doubled kind of your career in some respects with 61 goals. Player of the Year in '91 in the Championship when you scored 21 goals. Give us your sense of why the partnership worked so well, and then we'll bring in Kevin.
Because we didn't practice with each other or try and work it. It was all off the cuff stuff and just getting to know what the other player wanted to do. And Kevin will laugh at this now, but the last thing you wanted to do in training was be picked on the same team as him, because he wouldn't pass the ball. He kept trying to score goals. And so I made a point of not working it out. And we did a little bit. I mean, if you remember, Kev, there was things where I said, if I'm going up for a header, I'll always head it inside. And Kev was very quick to pretend he was going another way at that point and then cut in inside. And it looked as if it was all practice and rehearsed. But we just read each other really well. And I knew any time a ball came across, you know, if I couldn't score, you know, there was always going to be an area where I knew he would get to. He would never be there too early. He'd never be there too late. And his timing was immaculate. And it, you know, I've no, you know, qualms in saying it. He made me look far better than I was, because I would have played with players beforehand where I've tried to do the same thing, and, you know, you just don't read each other or whatever. But Kev was brilliant. He mopped up things, and as I said, made me look half decent.
Kev, do you want to come in on that?
Yeah, well, of course. You know, I take a lot of pride in hearing Niall. A lot of course say that. I think, you know, when we speak to people now, they just can't believe that we didn't work on the training ground. I think the biggest bit of advice that Niall gave me and only ever said to me and Peter Reid was try not to ever be more than 10, 15 yards away from me. Now, whether that was going in behind, coming inside, or dropping in front for a chest down, and then we're laying either a Nicky Summerby or an Alan Johnson or a third man midfield player running. And that stuck with me, you know, for my certainly the whole time I played with Nile. And, you know, for me, it was when I moved to Sunderland, I never expected the path that, you know, it was going to take. I never expected the goals I was going to score. And I never expected to play alongside someone of the calibre of Niall Quinn. You know, I grew up, you know, I was a young Arsenal player, and I do remember Niall at Arsenal. And all of a sudden now, you know, we're breaking records in the Premier League, and it was just a dream come true for me. But he's right in what he says. You know, we can't take all the credit. We played with some really good players. Even our two fullbacks, Chris Makin and Mickey Gray, overlapping crosses. And it was just one of those partnerships that just seemed to gel. And, you know, we've seen it in the Premier League over the years with the SAS, Shearer, Sutton, Andy Cole, Dwight York. You know, it was just one of those that happened, and I'll be forever grateful for it.
Yeah. And like, fans latch on to partnerships. They love them. Like you mentioned, Coll and York, for instance. You know, they're just a joy to watch. And I think, well, look, we know Niall Quinn's game inside out in this side of the pond, Kevin. But, I mean, he has an exceptional touch, and he had the vision. And it was probably an aspect of his game that people really underrated.
Yeah, and that's for me. You know, whenever I do sportsman's dinners or speaking to the Sun, I was lucky enough to play alongside Peter Crouch as well. And I always liken the two together, because what they didn't... I remember now, I think you remember when you scored that goal away at Leicester at Filbert Street, he did a piece of trickery, a bit of skill that was... Either it was luck, he didn't mean it, but, you know, knowing... knowing the way that I knew you and seeing you on the training ground, we all knew that you meant it, and it was just an incredible piece of skill, which you wouldn't expect from someone, you know, of the stature of Niall, and I've seen Crouchy do it as well. They had great feet, quick feet, but also, I think one of the biggest strengths Niall had as well was, you know, that hang time, to be able to jump in the air and have a look where I was going and then head it. Whereas a lot of players are just happy to get a flick on, and you're having to try and read that flick on. So, you know, he had incredible ability to be able to do those two things. But you're right, the feet were unbelievable.
We used to play head tennis, Joe, every day. And what that meant really was foot tennis. And we'd play, you know, probably till 1:30, 2 o'clock, and on a Friday, you know, the manager would be coming trying to throw us out of the ground to say you've got a match tomorrow. We just loved the head tennis, or was it foot tennis really. And I wish I had done it at 16 at Arsenal at 17 years of age when I went. I didn't start doing it, you know, to my mid-20s. And Kev, we had great fun on that. That was a special part of our training, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And even before a game, we was lucky enough at the stadium we had an area where you could play head tennis. We'd set head tennis up anywhere we possibly could, and we used to have a couple of benches in the room just off the first team dressing room. And the big thing that stood out for me, of course, it improves your touch, but the competitiveness that we had then was no one wanted to lose. We hated losing. We've seen arguments, people squaring up to each other, the arguments, it was in, it was out. It was just, you know, I think that's probably what made us so successful. We were certainly in the first 3-4 seasons I was at Sunderland, and you know, any advice like Niall said to young kids coming through now, which, you know, they probably don't play enough of, is, you know, if you've got a chance to set a little head tennis court up, it doesn't make a big difference in your touch, and it can certainly help you.
And just to follow,
please.
Just to follow, I want to tell you a story how competitive it got. Peter Reid used to play, and you might put one a yard in to win a point and he'd go out. And he was the manager and you couldn't really complain with him. But this particular time, there was a guy from Sky TV, Rob Hawthorne, waiting to interview him. And the ball was a good yard in at the end of the game, and he called it out. And Rob Hawthorne was there. And Rob Hawthorne was, sorry, Pete, I saw that it was in. And he chased him out of the training ground. You know the Benny Hill type chase. he ran after him all around the Charlie Hurley training centre, and he came back. And I remember Kev and I were there, and just said to each other, if we laugh now, we'll probably never get a contract again. Do not laugh, whatever you do. But that's how competitive it got.
Yeah. What kind of environment, Niall, did Peter Reid create?
He created a very special environment. He trusted us. He knew we'd go out for a pint the odd time. There was no mobile phones in them days for people to report back on you. In fact, I'd go the opposite. I'd say people were delighted to see us going out. He hoped that we'd go home at pub closing time, which I think our wives did as well. So that was kind of one of the rules that was unwritten. Obviously, at times that was broken, but it wasn't all about just that. It was caring for each other in other ways. Making sure that that we all knew how each other were getting on away from the training ground. That there was a link. There was definitely no splits or no cliques. I mean, I can say that for certain, Kev. It was one fabulous time in my career. And they say, the thing a player misses the most is the dressing room. And if I could double that up by saying the Sunderland dressing room was the best dressing room I was ever in for that period of time. And you had all kind of characters. You had quiet guys like Jody Craddock, Paul Butler, very strong characters. Steve Bold came from Arsenal, and he was just amazing for us. And for a while, Joe, and Kev will tell you this, Nicky Summerby, Danny Diccio, Kevin Ball, character, all different kinds of characters. But you really felt, you're onto something special. And looking back, we kind of know it was, because very few of us have reached that much enjoyment in anything we've done since.
Yeah. I think, I would totally agree, with what Niall was saying. I think one of the biggest strengths that really had for me was his man management skills, like Niall said, which I think is so important nowadays, having been in coaching. Managers need to get to know you personally, your personal life, which I think makes you feel a bit special. And he had a great way of doing that. Now, don't get me wrong, if you crossed him, I think he laid it on the line straight away, didn't he, Niall? That, if you crossed him, then, your career is probably going to end at Sunderland. And that happened to 2 or 3 of the players. But I think the biggest thing as well was the respect we gave him, because he'd been there, he'd seen it, he'd done it. So you couldn't really question him. And, of course, Bobby Saxton, for me, you can never speak about Sunderland and Peter Reid without bringing in Bobby Saxton, his assistant, who, good cop, bad cop. If Reid had a go at you, Bobby would put his arm around you. If Bobby had a go at you, Reid would put your arm around. So I think the combination and relationship that they had was something special, and that rubbed off on us as players.
Yeah, Bobby Saxton was the best coach I ever worked with. People would call him old-fashioned, but he knew the game inside out and got the best out of his players. He positioned us to deal with every team we played against. As players, you kind of, you think you know about the team you're playing against and you know the way they play. But he would make it finite, even though he was old-fashioned. And one lovely story I remember for him, I had a fitness test one day, I had a bad ankle. And anyway, I went running with the physio and Gordon Ellis, and it didn't quite work out. I couldn't get there the morning of the game. And Peter Reid came into the dressing room. I was on my own in the dressing room. We were playing Middlesbrough that day. And Peter came in and went, hard luck, big man, get yourself right for next week. So I went, yeah, cheers, boss, sorry about that. And as I was putting my clothes on, Bobby Saxton came in, slammed the door, came over to me, pushed me against the wall and went, you've turned into a Billy big time with your fitness tests. Fitness tests, you're reading about yourself in the papers too much. So I had this big row with him. And in the end, I said, Bobby, I've done the fitness test. I've tried to I can't even kick it. I've tried to kick a ball. I can't kick a ball. And then he went, when did we ever ask you to kick it? So we both laughed. I said I'd play as long as I could. Anyway, we won 1-0 and I scored a header. So there's genius that you don't see in today's coaching world.
The other thing which strikes you from afar about Peter Reid is, Kevin, he's good fun. Like, we had him over here doing a roadshow last year, a couple of years ago now. He brought the house down. I mean, he's funny.
I've been fortunate, me and Niall, when we've done sportsman's dinners with him, it's just, even I, having spent 5 seasons with him and listened to a lot of stories, you just sit there and you don't stop looking at you don't stop listening. He's just a naturally funny guy. But he, as I say, he was one of those, as Niall said, he didn't mind you going out for a beer. At times he would get the ump if we didn't invite him. It was one of those. He was he didn't have an issue, back then. If you went out every night, his big philosophy was, if you're going to go out every night, you come in here, you work hard. He said, I haven't got a problem, and you turn up Saturday and you perform. Of course, you can't get away with that these days, and I wouldn't advertise it, but. Yeah, he's certainly a great. I've got some unbelievable stories from his England days as well, which are hilarious. Under Bobby Robson with Gazza and people like it. It was just he's an incredible guy and very fascinating to listen to.
You're listening to Kevin Phillips and Niall Quinn. It's a Paddy Power special, fueling the mischief in the beautiful game. For information on responsible gambling. Sorry about that. I have a feeling that's Kevin Kilbane calling in, believe it or not. For information on responsible gambling, you can visit dunlewy.net. Just for younger listeners, because they might be listening to this and get a sense of things, but just to explain, so Sunderland get promoted. They have this beautiful new stadium, the Stadium of Light, and there's just a buzz about the place, and Sunderland, people love their football. 7th in the Premier League in that first season, 1999-2000. 7th again in the 2001 season. Things go awry after that, unfortunately. 17th in 02 and relegation in 03. But for those first two seasons, I think they were everybody's second team. And to top it all off, you've Nile, this beautiful Indian summer, as we said, and you've Kevin Phillips, first season in the Premier League, scoring 30 goals. So between all the strikers at Man United and Arsenal and Real Madrid and Barcelona and Bayern, who are steamrolling other teams around them, Sunderland finished 7th. Kevin Phillips scores 30 goals. Niall, that's just nuts.
Yeah, it's a real testament to Kev to point out that he's the only English-born European Golden Boot winner. And with the greatest respect to the football team, to do it with Sunderland was some feat. And it went so much so that when we were going out before matches, we'd all be talking to our friends, who are you backing for the first goal? Kevin Phillips was even money favourite to score the first goal at every game at the Stadium of Light. I mean, it was just amazing stuff. And, he also, didn't have a full season. There was times he was out injured in that run as well. The great pity for Kev and for ourselves is we faded away both years after Christmas. I think the way things happen now, maybe there would have been a bigger spend and perhaps the squad might be strengthened halfway through each year, but we didn't. We persisted with one squads mostly in those days, and we faded away to finish 7th. And really, the bit that I regret most about that is we never played a European club match at the Stadium of Light. I think we had a team good enough to do it, but we just kept missing out by fading away. But going back to Kev's performance, it was just extraordinary. And these weren't tap-ins. There were all sorts of goals, I know, but some of the goals are just so sublime. From curlers from outside the box, he'd start them 3 yards outside the post, give a goalkeeper no chance. He could head the ball. He scored plenty of headers. Obviously, either foot, dropping his shoulder, taking players on, putting it in the far corner, and reading flick-ons, knockdowns. I mean, he had the full repertoire. There was no weakness to his game. And, 30 goals that season is testimony to, I suppose, a lad who came in, nobody really knew him. He wasn't a star. And he came in and showed what hard work means. And, well, Sunderland, they'll be building a statue of him there soon, I think. But, they still look back, fans now, to that time. And they talk about him, and rightly so. It was just an extraordinary achievement. And all of us got something out of it. I personally, as I said, got that Indian summer. The other players probably got extended contracts out about what Kev was doing. And the fans had the best time of their lives. 49,000 people every week. You could not get a ticket for love nor money to see Kevin Phillips.
Yeah, it looked like just such a fun time to play. Kev, I don't know, you seem like you were very confident in your own ability, but by the same token, you're going into the Premier League for the first time. You must wonder, geez, am I going to cut it here? Maybe 10 goals, maybe 15 goals? How are things going to go? I mean, as you're closing in on 30, I mean, don't know, can you remember that time well? It must have just seemed like life was surreal.
Yeah, of course it was. All of a sudden, certainly it's a big goldfish bowl, isn't it, in the northeast? Having grown up as a young Southerner, had lots of football teams to all of a sudden, not being able to go out for a meal without getting pestered every 2 minutes. But it was it was something I always, I think even now I used to love having the route that I had into the professional game, being told that you're too small, being told that you weren't good enough, losing my parents at a very young age. My dad was 47, my mum was 53. I've had many setbacks along the way, and I just, I said to myself, I want to keep proving people wrong. And I think first and foremost, when I went to Sunderland, I wanted to prove to myself that I could score at that level and at such a big club. But when we got to the Premier League, I think one of the biggest things was an ex-commentator, ex-legend of a player, Rodney Marsh, coming out publicly and saying that he didn't think this kid would score more than 4 goals in the Premier League. And I don't get riled that easily, but that really angered me at that point. I just thought, I'm going to prove him wrong. And I just enjoy doing that. It's part of my makeup, even when I went into coaching. You want to try and prove to people that you're good enough at what you're doing. And, it was just, it was incredible. I never saw my career going like that. The first season, 35 goals, breaking Brian Clough's record, post-war record, 25 in the next season, having 4 months out with a toe injury. And then, like Niall said, that first year in the Premier League, I remember I missed 4 penalties that year. And, when I look back now, that really annoys me, because I thought I could have got 34 goals. I had a slight, few weeks off injured. But, yeah, it was just, I think, as well, I remember Alan Shearer coming out and saying that he didn't think another player would get 30 league goals in the Premier League. So that really stuck in my mind. I wanted to do that. And I remember the header against West Ham at the Stadium of Light for my 30th. It was a cross from Nicky Summerby. And, when it went in, if you saw the celebration now, I ran to the far corner and did my fingers, to 30 goals. And, I can remember as if it was yesterday. So, yes, some amazing times.
I'm sure they were. Niall, I seem to have a distant memory from your autobiography years ago that there was a very nice win bonus as well at Sunderland. So it was a happy... I'd say there were some happy bus rides home.
Well, that's exactly it. It's amazing the incentives in those days, because we were all on much smaller wages. But Bob Murray, the chairman, he called me in. Kevin Ball had been doing the players' bonuses for years. And Kevin got in touch with me to say, I'm not going in anymore. He always gets the better of me. Now, we were on probably about 300 a win and 150 a draw in the Championship. And now we've made it up to the Premier League. And Kevin asked me to go in, that he was fed up of being beaten up by Bob Murray. And Bob Murray just sat me down. He said, before you say anything, I've come up with a great plan. We're going to break the Premier League up into 3 groups. The bottom group, we're going to give you 2,000 a win and 1,000 a draw. The middle group, we're going to give you 3,000 a win and 1,000 a draw. But this other group, the top group of clubs, Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea, etc., we're going to give you 5,000 a win. I'll have a look back at the record that season, and you'll see the teams we bet. We beat all the teams at $5,000 a win.
That was part of the team talk,
wasn't it? Just and you can. I can remember watching the highlights in our match of the day was on or something, and Alex Ray, just before the kickoff, when they put a camera on somebody and they're clapping and they're saying, "Come on," and he was putting the 5 up, and I can remember him now. Remember 5 big ones today, lads. So, different times, of course, but it just shows, Jesus, we hit injuries and everything to get on the team to try and get that $5,000.
I can imagine those dressing rooms. There was a big win against Chelsea, because there was the Gus Poyet volley on the opening day, I think, at Stamford Bridge. But then at the Stadium of Light, I think you scored a great goal as well, Kevin. You beat Chelsea, so that's everyone around putting 5 up in the air. I'm going to need to look back at all these celebrations now and see what you're all saying to each other.
Yeah, that I think, probably, I would imagine Niall would agree. I think that first 45 minutes was probably the best 45 minutes of my career, not let alone just Sunderland. We got a right good hiding on the first game of the season down at Stamford Bridge, and you're right, Zola flips it over to Poyet, the scissor kick, and I think we had the team talk on the pitch at the end of that day, and Reedy was brilliant. He said, let's put it to bed. We got Watford Tuesday night, and we won the game, and we were off and running. So when it came around to the Stadium of Light, and we had to make changes that day. Eric Roy came in, pulled Thurwell. We were depleted side, but the first 45 minutes was just incredible. And you're right, I managed to score a great goal. Niall got 2 and I got 2, and it was revenge. So yeah, it was amazing, amazing day for me. One of the best.
I didn't realise. I forgot you scored 2, Niall, as well. Jeez,
that's fine. I'm gladly stay in the background there. But the thing I remember with Chelsea were. No, I did. Chelsea were flying at the time, and they had 2 World Cup winning centre halves at the club, Leboeuf and Desailly. and they were heading up into the promised land, and they really probably thought that they were just turning up to beat us, having trashed us on the first day. But it was an amazing time. I have a top three from my time in Sunderland, those moments. That first half against Chelsea, and the other two times we beat Newcastle away. Kev, you remember the fun? That because that was so big at the time. I mean, Newcastle had a great side. Ruth Hullett had gone in there. They were used to qualifying for Champions League, and we ended up beating them in a fabulous night. Kev scored a winner, great goal. And the following year we repeated it, and those two victories and that Chelsea match, like it's a golden sort of memory or group of three memories in my mind that it doesn't get any better, because you must remember Newcastle had a good team, Chelsea were wherever they were, but the North East in general, Middlesbrough had a great team, Brian Robson, with Juninho and Ravanelli. Newcastle had this team on the Champions League, and Sunderland here were punching as well and fighting possibly above our weight. And we had Newcastle Falcons, were the best rugby club in the country. There was the best ice hockey champions were in Newcastle. The Prime Minister was from the area. The whole sort of job scene had changed. The shipbuilding had ceased. The coal mines had closed down, but suddenly it was all back. Nissan was roaring, and the North East was a great place to be. I think our timing for us both to be up there, Kev, we were up there at the height of what, if there was a boom. If there was a Celtic Tiger in the Northeast, and to win those games, at that time was just amazing.
Yeah, that's funny. I hadn't realised that those off the field aspects to it, Niall. But now that you say it, makes sense, because there was just an energy about the place. I know they're great fans anyway, and we've seen the documentaries of late and how much they all care. But I don't know, you could sense a certain giddiness about the whole thing. So that's interesting. I didn't realise things like Nissan and the economic side of things was a part of the story. Yeah,
the pit villages were opening up again. You just see boarded up houses every village you go through out and around the region, and that all started to change, and so the people believed in it, and football played a very big part. As you know, Joe, we get a lot of credit here for the Jack Charlton team for kick-starting a recovery to the Irish economy, but football was very high in people's lives in the North East at that time too. Yes. Always will be, but that was just a period where all three were fighting and playing matches in the top half of the Premier League, and it was just a good time all round. Yeah, I'd say so. Stay with me a moment, lads. We're pretty much out of time. I won't keep you too much longer, but I'm told on a pretty dodgy Wi-Fi line, you had you interrupting us earlier. Kevin Kilbane, hopefully you can hear us from Canada. Are you there? I just got you now.
Hi, Joel. How are you keeping? Great.
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. How are things?
Everything's great. Not bad at all, yeah. Do you know it's Quinny's birthday as well today?
We do.
How old is he, Kev?
Oh, 48.
Cheers, Kev. We'll leave it at that.
No, yeah. Well, he's getting up somewhere near that anyway.
I'm 54. Let's get it out of the way, lads.
Well, you look about 45. It's disgusting.
Jesus.
Kev, we're about to let Kevin Phillips and Niall go and chat to you a little bit about the Slovakia game, but we were just having a trip down memory lane. I know you had a few difficulties towards the end of your Sunderland career, but when it was good, it was very good with this pair in particular.
Yeah. In all honesty, it's probably one of the best pairings you're likely to see with those two. How they used to link off each other. You could see it every day in training. How those two worked off each other. It was a great partnership, but I was listening to the back end of what Quinny was saying there about the timing when I went up there. It was at the very, very height of the club in itself, within the town, within the city as it became. It was just an incredible place, an incredible time to be part of the club and being in that environment. It was truly a special. It was, and I mean, you look at where the club is now, and you're hopeful of they can get back to those times. But I doubt very much. Certainly, in the next 10, 15, 20 years, they're going to be near the level of performances and consistency that was being produced around that time. Yeah.
Well, listen, Kev, you're going to hang on for a sec. We might even take a short break and get you up on the phone, and we'll get you in a better line, because I do want to get your thoughts on the match on Thursday. But Kevin Phillips, Niall Quinn. There's loads of texts coming in. I think you're bringing back a lot of memories for people. We're all suddenly feeling old that this is like 20 years ago. But loads of texts coming in saying they loved watching you play. So, Kevin Phillips, thanks very much. Niall Quinn,
pleasure.
Much obliged.
Pleasure, guys. Thanks,
Cheers.
See you, Kev.
Cheers, Niall. Take care.
Bye.
We'll take a very short break, and we'll be back with Kevin Kilbane in just a moment. So, welcome back. Kevin Kilbane is still with us. Kev, I'm told I'm better off sticking to the Skype than the phone signal, so I will keep my questions short and hopefully we'll get through it.
That's unusual for you. Congratulations on the award as well, Joe, as well.
Sorry, just say that again, Kev. The line went. Just say that a bit louder. No, I'm joking.
No, I didn't. If you didn't hear me, yeah.
Yeah. So, Ireland-Slovakia, give us your key thoughts.
Well, I mean, there's probably a bit of a, certainly after the games last month, there's a little bit of a negative feeling around the squad. I don't feel that myself. I feel as though that he's got the first squad out of the way. He's got the first couple games out of the way. He's had a chance to look at everybody. They've had a chance to get a feel of him, what he's going to do. I think the team will be much brighter and much better for that, for the time that they've had on the training ground with Stephen. So I'm looking forward to it. I think we've got players banging form. I think it doesn't necessarily always, transfer over to the international scene when lads are doing well at club level, but we've got lads banging form. With lads scoring goals. I think we've got our creative players that's in form, which is something that we've not had for a good while. We've got real attacking players that's banging form. We've always relied on our side defensively over the last few years, and I think there's a lot to be optimistic about. I'm looking forward to the game. I think that it's definitely a 50-50 game. Put more into our balance with the lack of crowd at the game. I do feel as though that's going to help us, and I'm looking forward to it. I think we've got a great chance.
I know one of the aspects you liked from the two other games was the way Ireland tried to press without the ball.
Yeah. I think you and I had a conversation privately about it, didn't we? And I think it was. You could definitely see there was absolutely a higher back line where we are going to get caught out. We will probably get caught out at times with sides maybe get one ball over the top because we're playing such a high line. I think there was a certain push from the back line to squeeze the midfield, to squeeze the front line, and I like what I saw. I did. It wasn't always great football. Don't get me wrong, and I think there's a lot more to improve on there. There's a lot more to improve on with and without the ball. Don't get me wrong, but I certainly saw positive signs, certainly in the first match, and that is what I'd be looking forward to seeing, if that can maybe go on to the next level or go on again for the Slovakia game. Absolutely.
Yes, because it wasn't like for all the possession that we created a hatful of chances. That's the next step here.
No. Yeah, do you know what? I think if you look back at the certain managers that I wouldn't want to pigeonhole Stephen Kenny at all, but if you look at certain managers when they start off in a certain club, when you see them going, I'd look at someone like maybe Brendan Rodgers or something like that, or someone like that, where they might dominate possession in certain games, certainly in the early stages, but the goals didn't necessarily flow wherever he's been. If I'm looking back to maybe his Swansea days and maybe even his Liverpool days, goals weren't necessarily flowing, but you could see there was a style that started to be built. And you only need to look at his career and look at what he's done at the various clubs he's been at, that the goals steadily started to flow, and then you started to see really good creative football, and you do feel as though that the chances will start to be created further down the line. So it may have come too soon from the game. It may have come too soon for everybody. But there's no better way, really, in these big qualifiers or these big playoff matches, just to get, the adrenaline rush, to get that bit of a buzz, to get you that bit of buzz about you. And I think the chances will start to flow. But I just think it is going to be work in progress. And we have to give Stephen, we have to give the players, his coaching staff, we have to give everybody that little bit of time just to see how things are going to be going. But as I was saying, this game might be just a little bit ahead of schedule before we've got the big ones coming up. Yeah,
and so with that in mind, you would hope that certainly Ireland keep things tight. If we're not necessarily going to be able to play brilliant fluid football from the off, that's understandable, but keeping things tight here is important. Yeah. There were sloppy goals conceded for whatever reason in the other two games.
Yeah, but that's always the difficulty though, Joe, isn't it? When you and I just been talking a minute or two ago about how we like what we saw in the team pressing. You could see there's a style. There's always going to be a high risk with that. You only need to look at what Liverpool did this weekend, when you're playing a certain way and you have to keep that back line as high as possible, because if the back line are dropping, you always look at the units back line into midfield. If the distances aren't right, then you can start to get caught out badly. You'll start to get played around in midfield if the defence is too deep, if they want to be a bit more cautious. So every unit has to work in unison with each other, and that's what you'll find all over the pitch, that you know, even if you're looking at the attacking third, if you're looking at 3 front players or 4 front players, whichever system Stephen's going to adopt going forward, if you're looking at the attacking players, when they're going to press, they're getting played round, then all of a sudden midfield gets exposed. That has a knock-on effect across the whole of the pitch. So if you get your units right and your distances right all over the pitch, it essentially should be fine. But when you're playing that risky football and you're playing a little bit higher and you're playing a bit further forward, you're going to get caught out, certainly with balls over the top or a single ball that can get in behind defences. And that's where we probably will get caught out at times. But you know yourself, it is that risk and reward. What's going to happen if we? Because I noticed, you know, and as you did as well, when we did press, we won a few high balls further up the pitch. We started to get a couple of chances off the back of that. That is the reward that you get from playing such a high line.
It's true. It's a quick way to create a chance for yourself. So David McGoldrick scored at the weekend. He's back fit, which is a big addition, you feel. Yeah. Seamus Coleman is out, so we know the back 4. What do you suspect the next 2 lines of 3 will be, Kev?
Oh, there are options. That's the thing. You know, we've spoken openly about Malumbi, about Harrahan, about Brady, about Hendrick, and all these players. I would imagine he'd probably go with a more experienced player in Jeff Hendrick, who started the season well with Newcastle as well. Harrahan, his set pieces and his dead balls, as well as his creativity in midfield, I think you would imagine he's going to be a starter with what he's done at the start of the season as well. Aaron Conley's been impressive. The reason why I've been impressed with Aaron Conley as well is I think he's maturing more as well as he's going, because if you're looking at Brighton when they're playing, at times, even in the last couple of Irish games as well, he's asked to play a certain role where you might be a little bit isolated at times. You might not necessarily see a lot of the ball, but he's a carrier of it. And if in spells in games where we are a little bit deeper, we're not necessarily getting possession, he can be the one that can carry us high up the pitch. So I would imagine those 3 will be starters. And you're looking, do you know what? You are kind of guessing, because there's, even into the last game, Joe, I was surprised with 1 or 2 selections. I think most, by and large, I think it would have been what I would have picked with what Stephen Kenny picked. But there are 1 or 2 selections that I maybe would have looked at and thought I wouldn't necessarily have done that. So I would imagine we'll get 1 or 2 surprises come Thursday. 7:45, 8 o'clock, whatever it will be, on Thursday evening. Yeah.
The sense is McCarthy, I suppose, will start, and then O'Dowda seemed to do very well in most people's eyes. Exactly. And Callum Robinson has maybe made a case for himself with the goals against Chelsea.
Well, do you know, I wouldn't be adverse to having pace off the bench. I think that's got to be something that we're mindful of if we are going to chase the game, if we are behind at any stage in the match. But also, if the game is in the balance, and you know, you get into 60, 70 minutes, and the game's at 0-0 or 1 apiece or whatever it's going to be, we've never really had, certainly in recent years, have we, a real injection of pace off the bench. So whether that would be Aaron Conley or Callum Robinson, it looks to me like he'd probably start Conley. I wouldn't be adverse to having someone like Callum Robinson coming off the bench. You mentioned the goals there that he scored against Chelsea, but also with what he's done over the last 6-8 months since he's gone there to West Brom, he's done very, very well for them. And I'd be one that, you know, I think certainly if he doesn't start the game, there will be a definite role for him to play at some stage through in the game, no matter what's going to happen. Even if he's in front in the game, he's a carrier of the ball, and he certainly can go and press. He can certainly win the ball, and also take us up the pitch to try and run that clock down. So there's a number of options, I think, and that is the most important thing that we've not had for such a long time. We've now got a case in the final third where you kind of knew, didn't you? We kind of knew if we had 2 or 3 positions, we'd know from 4 players. Now we've probably got 6 or 7 lads that are actually playing well, where you think that there's a real case for Stephen Kenny to pick them, and that's got to be a good thing for him. Yeah.
One final point to make, and it's an aspect of international football and international Irish football that you probably opened my eyes up to a little bit more. This is going to be a very nervy, high-pressured affair. You know, this is such a huge game, and you're going to have the likes of a Shane Duffy and others being asked to play expressive football that is probably easier to do when you're relaxed. So, you know, that is going to be an aspect of this. Who handles this occasion better? That's not something I usually bring into a game like this, but both teams know what's at stake here. It's just massive.
Yeah. I know. I think the crowd helped, Joe. I think a lack of crowd is going to help that little bit of edginess and nervousness. I think that goes without saying.
Right.
But you can't take away what it actually means to the players. You know that yourself. It's certainly with someone like Shane Duffy, we know what it means for him to wear the shirt, and emotionally it does come into it at this stage because of what it means and what you've grown up with. So yeah, I do think that'll be the case. Absolutely, it certainly was the case with me. No matter what anyone would tell me, I've been on a pitch with certain players, and players do feel nerves in different ways. And this is one of those games, one of those huge matches that, yes, you want to be part of. Yes, I certainly miss them when they're coming around because you're not part of these big occasions anymore. But if you put yourself in the players' shoes, there will be edginess. They'll be in the hotels trying to just get yourself focused on the game in itself. But you do get nervousness, lack of sleep. All these sort of things will be a factor going into the game this Thursday night. Yeah.
And I presume it's easier to roll your sleeves up and just work hard when you're nervous, as opposed to taking touches and playing expansive football. Yeah,
well, you know that yourself. Absolutely, it is. I think it's, if we're looking back in recent times, again, you'd never want to be too critical because there were some big results that we've had over times. But it's absolutely easier for a back four to sit nice and narrow, nice and deep, midfield 4 or 5, whatever it is, it's in front of them, getting your distances right, sitting in nice and deep, everything's tight, tucked in, difficult to play through, forcing teams wide. When crosses come in, everybody's in positions to go and attack those crosses. So you get through 90 minutes in a game at times when you're playing like that, and you think, look, we've only had 30% possession, but you come off thinking, well, we've not really been under that much pressure. It was actually a comfortable game given that we didn't have a lot of the ball. This is a different aspect now that, yes, we are going to be more expansive, we're going to be more open, and more mistakes will be made off the back of that. And in these high-profile games, that can be career-defining, international career-defining, if you make big mistakes in these big matches, and that is where you do feel for them a little bit. But it's going to be insisted on them that they're going to have to be playing a certain way, and I'm looking forward to it to see how it goes, and hopefully there's not too many mistakes off the back of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Hope it goes well. Listen, the line held up pretty well. Thanks so much for making time. I know you're a bit busy there running around. We'll catch up again.
Great stuff, Joe. Thanks a lot. Take it easy.
Take care. Kevin Kilbane there with his gazillion Republic of Ireland caps and experience, giving his thoughts. By the way, if you hadn't seen the news, the FAI have confirmed that a member of the backroom staff has tested positive for COVID-19. 2 additional staff members are now restricting their movements based on contact tracing. But the good news is that the 2 close contacts have tested negative for COVID. So that's great news. And all 3 of the backroom staff are asymptomatic and are well. And long may that continue. Obviously, it may disrupt preparations to some extent or other. So that was Kevin Phillips, Niall Quinn and Kevin Kilbane. It was a Paddy Power special, fueling the mischief in the beautiful game. For information on responsible gambling, visit dunlewy.net, DUNLEWEY.net.